Master Your Mind Before It Masters You. Written and published by Echo Elevate. Introduction. Your mind is the most powerful tool you will ever own. It can build your dreams, or destroy them. It can lift you to greatness, or trap you in doubt, fear, and hesitation. The question is simple: who's in control? This book is a journey toward taking that control back. It's about learning to guide your thoughts instead of being guided by them, to use your emotions as fuel, not chains, and to turn mental chaos into calm, confident direction. Most people live life reacting to their minds. They wake up anxious, go through the day distracted, and end it exhausted. They believe their thoughts are truth. But thoughts are not commands. They are signals. And once you learn to read those signals, you can reshape your entire reality. In this audiobook, you'll learn practical ways to master your inner world. You'll understand how awareness transforms confusion into clarity. You'll discover how discipline turns weakness into strength. And you'll see how purpose gives every thought a home, and every action a reason. Each chapter builds step by step. You'll go from observing your thoughts to organizing them, from controlling emotions to creating lasting habits, from reacting unconsciously to responding with wisdom. This is not theory. It's a daily practice of mental mastery, simple, powerful, and real. By the end of this book, you'll see that the mind was never your enemy. It was a tool waiting for instruction. So take a deep breath, focus, and prepare to master your mind before it masters you. Chapter 1. Awareness. Seeing the invisible. Everything begins with awareness. Before you can change your thoughts, your emotions, or your habits, you must first see them. Awareness is the flashlight that reveals what's been hidden in the dark corners of your mind. It is the bridge between unconscious living and conscious control. Most people walk through life half awake. They move from task to task, thought to thought, emotion to emotion, without ever noticing what's really happening inside. They feel stress but never pause to ask, where is this feeling coming from? They react to anger, fear, or frustration as if those emotions appear out of nowhere. But nothing appears from nowhere. Everything you feel begins as a thought, and every thought is a reflection of what you believe. Awareness is not about judging yourself. It's about observing yourself, calmly, honestly, and curiously. When you become aware, you begin to see your patterns. You notice how the same thoughts repeat, how emotions rise and fall, and how certain choices keep leading to the same results. It's like finally realizing you've been following a map drawn by someone else. The first step: seeing without reaction. Imagine sitting beside a busy road. Cars rush by, fast, loud, constant. That's what your thoughts are like. Every few seconds another one races through a memory, a fear, a plan, a judgment. Without awareness, you jump into one of those cars and let it carry you away. You ride your anger, your worry, or your regret down the highway until you're exhausted. But awareness teaches you something powerful. You are not the cars. You are the one watching them go by. You don't have to chase every thought that passes. You can sit still, observe, and decide which one is worth your attention. This simple shift changes everything. You go from being controlled by your mind to being in command of it. You stop reacting automatically and start responding consciously. For example, let's say someone criticizes your work. Your mind instantly says, "They don't respect me." Emotion rises: anger, hurt, defensiveness. Without awareness, you lash out or shut down. But with awareness, you pause. You notice the reaction forming. You ask yourself, why am I feeling this? What story is my mind telling me? In that moment of pause, you regain control. You no longer serve the emotion serves you. That pause, that breath, is where awareness lives. The mirror of the mind. Think of awareness as a mirror. It reflects what's inside without distortion. If you're frustrated, it shows frustration. If you're grateful, it shows gratitude. The mirror doesn't judge, it only reveals. Most of us try to fix what we don't first understand. We try to change habits, people, or circumstances, without understanding the thoughts driving them. That's like trying to clean a mirror by wiping the reflection instead of the glass. Awareness invites you to look deeper, not just at what you're doing, but why you're doing it. Why do you reach for your phone when you're stressed? Why do you procrastinate when something matters most? Why do certain people drain your energy while others inspire it? These are not surface questions. They're doorways into your inner world, and each answer reveals another layer of the mind's invisible design. When you begin to see these invisible threads, the small triggers, the quiet fears, the hidden desires, you start to understand your behavior with compassion, not shame. And from that understanding comes power. The power to choose differently. Real-world awareness. Let's bring this to real life. Imagine a young professional named Lisa. She works hard, stays late, and rarely says no. She tells herself she's ambitious, but deep down she's afraid. Afraid of not being good enough. So she keeps chasing approval, hoping one more achievement will finally make her feel secure. One day, she notices something new. She catches herself feeling anxious before a meeting and asks, "What am I really afraid of?" The answer surprises her. It's not the meeting. It's the fear of being judged. The fear of being seen as less than perfect. That simple moment of awareness becomes her turning point. She starts observing her thoughts at work, her self-talk before a presentation, her reactions to criticism, and she begins to see the pattern. Her stress isn't caused by others. It's caused by her own mind demanding constant validation. Through awareness, Lisa doesn't just work harder. She works wiser. She learns to set boundaries, speak calmly, and give herself permission to be imperfect. Her outer world improves because her inner world shifts first. That's the magic of awareness. It doesn't instantly erase your problems, but it changes your relationship with them, and that changes everything. Awareness in everyday life. Awareness isn't something you practice only during meditation or reflection. It's a way of living. It's being present during a conversation. Instead of thinking about your reply, it's noticing the taste of your morning coffee, the sound of the rain, or the tension in your shoulders before it becomes pain. You can build awareness in simple daily ways. Pause before reacting. When something upsets you, take one deep breath before you respond. That breath creates space for choice. Observe your thoughts. Notice what your mind says when you make a mistake or face a challenge. Is it kind? Is it helpful? Awareness begins when you listen. Reflect each night. Before sleeping, replay your day. Notice moments where you felt strong and moments where you felt weak. What triggered each? Awareness grows through gentle review, not harsh judgment. Over time, these small habits strengthen your ability to see clearly. Even in chaos, you'll begin to catch yourself mid-reaction, mid-thought, and choose differently. You'll feel less like a passenger in your own life, and more like the driver. Awareness and the present moment. Awareness lives only in one place, the present. You can't be aware yesterday, and you can't plan awareness for tomorrow. It happens right here, right now. When you focus on the present, you pull your mind away from the endless noise of what if. You stop replaying the past and worrying about the future. You experience what is. And in that space, peace begins. That doesn't mean you stop planning or remembering. It means you stop living inside those thoughts. You use them, instead of being used by them. Try this simple exercise. Next time you're walking, don't let your mind drift. Notice your steps. Feel the air. Hear the sounds. Be there, fully. That's awareness in motion. And the more you practice it, the more power you gain over the wandering mind. The power of naming. There's another skill that strengthens awareness, naming what you feel. When you say, I feel anxious, or I feel angry, you separate yourself from the emotion. You create distance. You say, this is what I feel, instead of, this is who I am. That small distinction gives you power, because once you can name it, you can manage it. The unseen becomes seen, and the invisible becomes understandable. Children throw tantrums because they don't yet have this skill. They feel anger, but they can't name it, so it consumes them. Adults do the same, just in quieter ways. Awareness gives you the language to calm your mind and regain command. The invisible becomes visible. When you master awareness, life slows down in the best way. You start noticing details others miss. The tone behind someone's words. The motive behind your choices. The whisper of intuition before a decision. You develop inner clarity, a quiet confidence that no external chaos can shake. The world doesn't get easier, but you get stronger. You respond to challenges, instead of reacting to them. You find meaning, where others see confusion. You start shaping your life from the inside out. This is the essence of seeing the invisible. The invisible isn't mystical. It's mental. It's the world of thoughts, beliefs and patterns that shape everything you do. When you see it clearly, you stop being a prisoner of it. The practice of awareness. Awareness is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong practice. Some days you'll be mindful and calm. Other days the mind will run wild. That's normal. The goal isn't perfection. It's progress. Every moment you notice a thought instead of being lost in it. That's awareness. Every time you pause before reacting. That's awareness. Every time you choose understanding over judgment. That's awareness. Bit by bit, awareness becomes who you are. You become grounded, focused and steady, even when life is not. Closing reflection. Awareness is the foundation of all self-mastery. It is the art of seeing the unseen. Once you learn to see, you can begin to shape. Once you begin to shape, you can begin to grow. So before you try to change your habits or fix your life, stop, breathe, and look within. Watch your thoughts as they come and go. Listen to what your mind is really saying. Because until you become aware, you are not truly free. Awareness is the first victory, the one that makes all others possible. Chapter 2. The Inner Dialogue. Friend or foe, there's a voice that never leaves you. It speaks when you wake up. It speaks when you lie down, and it speaks in every moment in between. It reminds you, warns you, encourages you, and sometimes it attacks you. That voice is your inner dialogue. Most people never stop to question it. They believe every word it says. If the voice whispers, "You're not ready," they step back. If it says, "You'll fail," they hesitate. If it says, "You can't," they don't even try. But here's the truth. That voice isn't always right. Sometimes it's your greatest enemy. And mastering your mind begins with learning to master that voice. The constant companion. Your inner dialogue is like a running commentary of your life. It narrates what's happening, what could happen, and what already happened. It tells stories about who you are and how the world works. Some stories empower you, others hold you back. Think about it. Every goal you've ever reached began with a sentence in your head: I can do this. And every dream you've ever abandoned began with another sentence: what's the point? That's the power of self-talk. It can push you forward or pull you under. The quality of your life depends largely on the quality of your inner dialogue. If your words are filled with fear, doubt, and criticism, then fear, doubt, and criticism become your reality. If your words are filled with encouragement, belief, and clarity, those become your reality instead. Your mind believes what you repeat. So if you constantly say, I'm not enough, it will start collecting evidence to prove it. But if you say, I'm capable, I'm growing, I'm learning, your mind will start finding reasons to support that too. The origin of the voice. Where does that voice come from? It's a blend of many things: your upbringing, your experiences, your environment, your beliefs. When you were young, you absorbed messages from parents, teachers, and peers. Some were helpful, some were harmful. If you were praised for trying, your inner voice learned encouragement. If you were criticized for failing, your inner voice learned fear. If you were told to stay quiet, it learned to silence itself. Over time, these messages became scripts, automatic thoughts that play on repeat. And unless you become aware of them, they keep running your life in the background. This is why awareness, as we learned in Chapter 1, is the foundation. Without awareness, you can't change the script. You just keep reacting to it. But once you become aware of what your inner dialogue is saying, you gain the power to rewrite it. The voice of fear versus the voice of growth. Inside your mind, there are usually two voices. One is the voice of fear, the other is the voice of growth. The voice of fear says, don't take risks, stay safe, don't embarrass yourself. It's not trying to hurt you, it's trying to protect you, but in doing so it keeps you small. The voice of growth says, try anyway, learn, improve, you can handle it. It's not reckless, it's courageous. It believes in your ability to adapt and overcome. These voices battle every day. You feel it when you're about to speak up in a meeting. You feel it when you're about to start something new. One voice says, who are you to do that? The other says, why not you? The mind is like a stage, and both voices want the microphone. Awareness is the director, who decides who gets to speak. The more often you choose the voice of growth, the stronger it becomes. Confidence isn't built overnight. It's built conversation by conversation, thought by thought, turning the critic into a coach. Let's talk about that inner critic. Everyone has one. It points out your flaws, your mistakes, your failures. It can be harsh, loud, and relentless. But here's the key. That critic isn't always your enemy. When you understand it, you can transform it. You can turn the critic into a coach. A critic says, you're terrible at this. A coach says, you can get better if you practice. A critic says, you failed. A coach says, you learned something valuable. The words may seem similar, but the tone changes everything. Your inner voice doesn't have to disappear. It just needs direction. When you catch yourself using harsh words, reframe them. Instead of I can't believe I messed up, say, that didn't work. What can I do better next time? Instead of I'm not good enough, say, I'm improving every day. This small shift changes how your brain responds. You start building self-respect instead of self-rejection. And with that, you unlock a calm confidence that no external praise can match. A real-world example. Let's look at a story. David was a young entrepreneur who dreamed of starting his own business, but every time he sat down to plan, his mind said, "You're not ready. You don't have enough experience. You'll probably fail." That voice grew louder each day. One evening, he decided to write down everything the voice said. He filled an entire page with self-doubt. Then he asked himself one question: if a friend came to me with these same fears, what would I tell them? He realized he'd never speak to a friend that way. He'd say, "Of course you're scared. But that's normal. You'll learn as you go. You've overcome things before. You can do it again." So he began speaking to himself the same way. Every time the voice of fear appeared, he answered it with the voice of reason, compassion, and belief. Over time, the fearful voice grew quieter, and the confident voice grew louder. Within a year, David launched his business, not because he silenced his inner critic, but because he learned to lead it. That's the real secret. Mastery doesn't mean eliminating fear. It means guiding it, shaping your inner dialogue. To master your inner dialogue, you must shape it intentionally. Here are a few ways to begin. 1. Listen to the tone. Notice how your inner voice speaks. Is it kind? Is it cruel? Awareness begins with tone, not just words. 2. Challenge false beliefs. When you hear, "You can't do it," ask, "Is that true?" Question the voice. Don't accept every statement as fact. 3. Rehearse positive language. Before a challenge, say to yourself, "I'm prepared. I can learn. I'll give my best." Your brain listens when you speak, even internally. 4. Speak to yourself like someone you love. Would you talk to a child, a partner, or a friend, the way you talk to yourself? If not, change the tone. Love and strength can coexist. 5. Practice gratitude. Each day, thank your mind for helping you grow. Gratitude softens the inner dialogue and brings balance to your thoughts. The goal is not to make your inner voice endlessly positive. The goal is to make it honest, balanced, and empowering. The science of self-talk. Modern psychology confirms what ancient wisdom has long taught. Your inner words shape your outer life. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is built on this idea. It teaches that thoughts create emotions, emotions create actions, and actions create results. When your inner dialogue is negative, your emotions become heavy. You act out of fear, insecurity, or guilt. But when your inner dialogue is clear and supportive, your emotions become stable. You act with purpose, courage, and focus. You can't always control your first thought, but you can always control the second one, the one you choose to follow. That's where mastery begins. The moment of choice. Here's the beautiful truth. You have a choice every time your inner voice speaks. You can believe it, or you can question it. You can fight it, or you can guide it. You can let it lead you, or you can lead it. Each moment of choice shapes your identity. When you choose strength over doubt, your confidence grows. When you choose patience over panic, your clarity sharpens. When you choose belief over fear, your world expands. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing which voice you allow to define your life. The inner dialogue of great minds. Every great achiever has learned to master their inner dialogue. Athletes visualize success before stepping onto the field. Leaders reframe challenges as opportunities. Artists silence doubt long enough to create. They all face fear. They all hear the voice that says, "You can't." But they've learned to answer with a stronger one. "Yes, I can." Their secret isn't talent alone. It's training. They've trained the voice within, and you can too. Closing reflection. Your inner dialogue is the most important conversation you will ever have. It shapes your emotions, your confidence, your decisions, and your destiny. The voice in your head can build you up or break you down, but once you learn to guide it, it becomes your greatest ally. So listen closely to the words you say to yourself. Replace doubt with direction. Replace judgment with understanding. And replace fear with faith in your own potential. Because the moment you master your inner dialogue, you stop being your own enemy and become your greatest source of power. Chapter 3. Beliefs. The blueprint of reality. Every structure begins with a design. Every design begins with a blueprint. And your life, every action, every choice, every success and failure is built from the same process. The blueprint is not on paper. It's not in your hands. It's in your mind. Your beliefs are that blueprint. They determine what you see, what you attempt, and what you allow yourself to become. Before you build a business, a career, or a relationship, you build a belief. What you believe about yourself sets the limits for what's possible. The truth is simple yet powerful. You do not see life as it is. You see it as you are. Your beliefs filter reality, shaping it to match your expectations. And until you learn to master those beliefs, you will continue to live within the walls they create. The hidden architecture of the mind. Beliefs are invisible structures. They live beneath your thoughts and quietly guide your decisions. They tell you what's safe, what's dangerous, what's possible, and what's not. When you believe something strongly enough, your mind will bend the world to fit it. If you believe you're unlucky, you'll notice every failure and miss every opportunity. If you believe you're capable, you'll find ways where others see walls. It's like wearing glasses with colored lenses. If the lens is tinted red, everything you see takes on that hue. You don't question the color. You assume that's just how the world looks. Your beliefs work the same way. They color your perception. They determine what information your brain accepts and what it rejects. You see what your mind allows you to see. And here's the challenge. Most of these beliefs weren't chosen consciously. They were handed to you. You absorbed them from your family, culture, education, and past experiences. They became part of your mental wiring before you even realized they were there. How beliefs are born. Every belief starts as an idea that gets repeated until it becomes truth. Maybe a teacher once said, "You're not very good at math. You failed a few tests." And the idea became a belief. "I'm not smart enough." Years later, that belief shapes your career choices, your confidence, even your willingness to learn. Or perhaps your parents said, "Money doesn't grow on trees." You heard it so often that it became your reality. Now when you try to earn more, something inside resists. Not because you can't, but because you've been programmed to believe abundance is unnatural. Beliefs begin as words, then turn into patterns, and finally become identity. And once something becomes identity, it becomes invisible. You no longer question it. You live from it. That's why this chapter is called The Blueprint of Reality, because what you believe about yourself, others, and the world becomes the silent architect of your life. The power of self-belief. Let's take a closer look at one of the most powerful beliefs you can hold: self-belief. It's the foundation of every success story. Not arrogance, not false confidence, but a quiet, steady conviction that says, "I can figure this out." Think of Thomas Edison. Before inventing the light bulb, he failed over 1,000 times. 1,000 failures would have destroyed most people, but not him, because his belief was not, "I failed again." It was, "I found another way that doesn't work." That belief kept him going until he changed the world. Self-belief doesn't make life easier. It makes you stronger. It tells your mind that effort will pay off, that growth is possible, that you are capable of learning. And when that belief becomes your foundation, even setbacks become stepping stones. The beliefs that hold you back. Not all beliefs empower you. Some protect you. Some limit you. Some were built for survival, but now they're barriers to success. Let's call them limiting beliefs. They sound like this: I'm not talented enough. I don't deserve love. People like me never succeed. It's too late to start. Each of these sentences is a mental wall, and the tragedy is, most people never try to walk through them, because they don't know the wall is made of air. A man once said, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right." That was Henry Ford. He understood that belief comes before behavior. The moment you say, "I can't," your mind shuts the door to creativity and effort. But when you say, "Maybe I can," the door cracks open, and through that small gap growth begins. A real-world story. Let's meet Maria. Maria dreamed of being a writer, but she carried a belief that her English wasn't good enough. She compared herself to others, and always found a reason to stay silent. One day her mentor asked her to write a simple article for a community blog. Maria resisted, saying, "I can't write like the professionals." The mentor smiled and said, "No one asked you to. Just write like you." So she did. She wrote one piece, then another. Readers began to comment, not on her grammar, but on her warmth, her honesty, her clarity. The same belief that once stopped her began to crumble. She realized the truth. The problem wasn't her writing. It was her belief about her writing. Years later, Maria published her first book, not because someone gave her permission, but because she rewrote her belief about who she was. Your story can change the same way. When you change what you believe, everything else begins to shift. How to rewrite a belief. Changing beliefs doesn't happen overnight, but it can happen with awareness, repetition, and evidence. Here's a simple 3-step process. Step 1. Identify the belief. Ask yourself, what do I believe about this? Write down the thought that feels most true, even if it's painful. Maybe it's, "I'll never be successful," or "I'm always unlucky." Awareness is the first crack in the wall. Step 2. Question the belief. Where did it come from? Is it based on fact or fear? What proof do you actually have? Often you'll find the belief isn't built on truth. It's built on repetition. Step 3. Replace the belief with a better one. This doesn't mean pretending. It means creating a statement that's believable and empowering. Instead of "I'll never be successful," say, "I'm learning how to succeed." Instead of "I'm not confident," say, "I'm building confidence every day." Your brain needs new evidence to form new beliefs. So take small actions that prove your new belief is true. Every success, no matter how small, becomes another brick in your new foundation. The science behind belief. Modern neuroscience shows that your brain rewires itself through repetition. It's called neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to form new connections. Every time you repeat a thought, you strengthen that connection. That's why beliefs feel so real. They're physically wired into your brain. But the same process that created limiting beliefs can also create empowering ones. You can rewire your thinking through conscious repetition and consistent evidence. When you say to yourself, "I can learn this," your brain begins scanning for proof. It looks for experiences that match that statement. And over time, what you once doubted becomes your new normal. Belief and reality. Here's the most fascinating truth of all. Your beliefs don't just shape how you see the world. They influence how the world responds to you. People sense your energy. They read your confidence, your doubt, your certainty. When you believe in your value, others feel it. When you doubt yourself, others hesitate too. That's why changing a belief can change your outcomes. Because belief doesn't just live in your mind. It radiates through your actions, tone and presence. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's the quiet knowing that your blueprint is solid, even when the building isn't finished yet. Building a new blueprint. As you move through life, keep this in mind. You are both the architect and the builder. You design your beliefs, and your beliefs design your life. So ask yourself, what do I believe about my potential? What do I believe about success? What do I believe about love, wealth, health, and happiness? Every answer will reveal part of your current blueprint. And if something isn't working, don't curse the structure, redesign it. You are not bound by the beliefs you inherited. You can rewrite them. You can create a mental architecture that supports growth, abundance and peace. Closing reflection. Beliefs are invisible but powerful. They are the silent architects of your reality. They build your world from the inside out. If you want a new life, start with new beliefs. If you want better results, create better blueprints. Every thought you repeat becomes a beam of that structure. Every decision reinforces its walls. So take time to examine your beliefs, not with judgment but with curiosity. Choose the ones that serve you. Release the ones that don't, because once you master your beliefs, you don't just change how you think, you change what's possible. Chapter 4. Focus. The mind's steering wheel. Focus is the steering wheel of the mind. Wherever you turn it, your life follows. You can have energy, talent, ambition, and desire, but without focus, you'll spin in circles. Focus is what transforms motion into direction. It's the difference between being busy and being effective, between running fast and moving forward. In a world full of noise, focus has become a rare skill and a priceless advantage. Your attention is your greatest currency. What you choose to focus on expands. What you neglect begins to fade. Every result in your life is a reflection of where your focus has been. Focus on problems, and you'll find more problems. Focus on solutions, and you'll discover paths you didn't know existed. Focus on fear, and your courage shrinks. Focus on possibility, and your confidence grows. So if your mind is the engine, focus is the steering wheel. Without it you're powerful, but directionless. With it you can drive anywhere you choose. The power of directed energy. Imagine a magnifying glass under the sun. When the light spreads out, it warms but doesn't burn. But when you narrow the beam to a single point, that same light can ignite a fire. That's what focus does to your energy. It concentrates it. It takes scattered thoughts and channels them toward a single purpose. It turns potential into progress. Most people live like an unfocused beam. Their attention jumps from one thing to another. Messages, notifications, distractions, worries. They start a task, check their phone, remember something else, switch tabs, get coffee, and by the end of the day, wonder why they're exhausted but accomplished so little. Their mind is full but not focused, and a full mind is not a productive mind. Focus, on the other hand, creates clarity. It quiets the noise. It gives every action a target. It transforms random effort into deliberate movement. The cost of distraction. Let's talk about the silent enemy. Distraction. Distraction doesn't just steal your time. It steals your future. Every time you allow yourself to be pulled away, you lose momentum. And momentum is what turns effort into achievement. Distraction is like constantly tapping the brakes while trying to accelerate. You move, but you never gain speed. You start to believe you're not capable, when the truth is, you're just not concentrated. Think of how many times you've tried to read a book, work on a project, or think deeply about something, only to be interrupted by a buzzing phone or a stray thought. Each interruption breaks your mental rhythm, and the mind, like a musician, performs best in flow, uninterrupted harmony between thought and action. Focus is not just about attention, it's about environment. You can't stay focused if your surroundings constantly compete for your mind's energy. If you want to master your focus, start by mastering your environment. Silence what distracts you, remove what drains you, and surround yourself with things that remind you of your goals. Real-world example: the power of one task. Consider James, a graphic designer working on multiple projects. He prided himself on being a multitasker, checking emails, designing, attending calls, and answering messages all at once. But his work began to feel scattered. He missed details. Deadlines slipped. Creativity faded. One day, his mentor said, "James, your problem isn't talent. It's attention. You're trying to shine 10 flashlights instead of one spotlight." So James made a simple rule: one task at a time. He set 90-minute focus blocks with no notifications, no emails, no distractions. At first it was uncomfortable. His mind kept reaching for something else. But after a week, something shifted. His work got deeper, cleaner, faster. He began finishing projects in half the time. Not because he worked more, but because he worked focused. That's the magic of focus. It multiplies your efficiency by aligning your energy. The science of attention. Modern neuroscience explains why focus is so powerful. Your brain has a system called the reticular activating system, or RAS. It acts like a filter, deciding what information gets your attention and what gets ignored. If you buy a red car, you suddenly start noticing red cars everywhere. It's not that there are more of them. It's that your RAS is now tuned to that signal. The same applies to your goals. When you focus on growth, your brain starts noticing opportunities that align with it. When you focus on gratitude, your mind begins spotting moments of joy you used to miss. When you focus on fear, your mind finds reasons to stay afraid. What you focus on literally programs your perception. You become what you consistently notice. Focus and the present moment. True focus can only exist in the present. You can't concentrate on the past. It's already gone. You can't focus on the future. It hasn't arrived. Focus is about what's happening now. When you bring your attention fully into the moment, everything sharpens. Your thoughts slow down. Your mind stops racing ahead. Your work becomes smoother. Your conversations deeper. Your decisions wiser. Try this simple exercise. Next time you're speaking to someone, give them your full attention. Listen not to reply, but to understand. Notice how their words, tone, and emotion connect. That's real focus. That's how you turn ordinary moments into meaningful ones. Focus isn't only for work. It's for living. When you focus on what's in front of you, life stops feeling like a blur. You begin to experience it, not just rush through it. The discipline of focus. Focus isn't a talent. It's a discipline. It's something you train, not something you're born with. And like any muscle, it grows through use. Start small. Give yourself short blocks of full concentration. Set a timer for 20 or 30 minutes. No phone, no multitasking, just one task. At first your mind will resist. It will wander, itch for stimulation, crave distraction. That's normal. The modern mind is addicted to noise. But every time you pull your attention back, you strengthen your mental discipline. You teach your brain that you are in charge, not your impulses. And over time those small moments of focus build into a habit of clarity. The relationship between focus and purpose. Focus becomes easier when you have a clear purpose. When you know why you're doing something, your mind naturally prioritizes it. Have you noticed how time flies when you're doing something you love? That's focus in flow, your attention and purpose aligned. You lose sense of distraction because your whole being is engaged. The opposite is also true. When your purpose is unclear, your focus scatters. You drift from one task to another, unsure of what truly matters. So before you try to sharpen your focus, clarify your direction. Ask yourself, what deserves my attention today? Not everything deserves it, but something does. Choose wisely, and your mind will follow. The mind as a lens. Think of focus like adjusting a camera lens. When it's unfocused, everything looks blurry, nothing stands out. But when you turn the lens, the subject becomes clear, and the background fades away. Life works the same way. If everything matters, nothing does. Clarity requires elimination. To focus on your goals, you must blur out distractions. To focus on growth, you must let go of gossip. To focus on peace, you must quiet the noise. You don't gain focus by adding more. You gain it by removing what doesn't belong. Practical ways to sharpen focus. Here are a few simple habits that strengthen focus over time. 1. Start your day with intention. Before checking your phone, decide your top priorities. Ask what 3 things will make today successful. Write them down. That list becomes your mental compass. 2. Practice mindfulness. Spend a few minutes each day noticing your breath, your thoughts or your surroundings. Mindfulness trains your brain to return to the present whenever it drifts. 3. Protect your environment. Create a workspace that reduces distraction. Silence unnecessary notifications. Keep your tools organized. 4. Take focused breaks. Don't work endlessly. Rest with purpose. Step outside. Stretch or breathe deeply. Short, intentional breaks help you reset your attention. 5. Reflect daily. At the end of each day, ask yourself, where did my focus go? Did it align with my goals, or drift toward distractions? Awareness is the first step to improvement. The story of the archer. There's an old story about an archer. He trained for years to hit the center of the target. One day, his master blindfolded him and asked him to shoot. The arrow missed completely. The master said, "You were aiming for the target, not for the truth." When you lose sight of your focus, even skill becomes useless. The lesson is simple. Skill without focus leads to noise. Focus without skill leads to growth. But focus with skill leads to mastery. Closing reflection. Focus is the quiet force that shapes every great achievement. It's not loud. It doesn't demand attention. But its power is unmatched. When your mind learns to focus, your thoughts align, your energy strengthens, and your path becomes clear. You stop scattering yourself across 100 directions. You start channeling your power into one. So as you move forward, remember this. You can't control everything in life, but you can control what you focus on. And whatever you focus on, grows. Choose carefully, because your focus today becomes your reality tomorrow. Chapter 5. Emotion. The energy of thought. Emotion is the energy of thought. Every feeling you experience, joy, fear, anger, hope, excitement, sadness, begins as a single thought that gains momentum. Thoughts create the spark, but emotions are the fuel that makes them move. Without emotion, ideas remain motionless. Without awareness, emotions can drive you off course. Think of your mind as the engine, and emotion as the current that powers it. The same current that lights up a city can also burn it down depending on how it's directed. Emotion, when mastered, becomes your greatest ally. When ignored, it becomes your greatest saboteur. You don't need to suppress emotions to master them. You need to understand them, to see what they're trying to teach you. Every emotion has a message, a meaning, and a purpose. And once you learn to translate that language, you gain the ability to steer your life with intention instead of impulse. The link between thought and emotion. Every emotion begins with a thought. It might happen so fast you barely notice it, but it's there. You see a message, you remember a failure, or you imagine a possibility, and instantly your body reacts. A fearful thought triggers tension. A grateful thought creates calm. A hopeful thought releases energy. This is how the mind and body communicate. Your thoughts write the script, and your emotions perform it. Most people try to change how they feel, without changing how they think. They chase pleasure, avoid pain, and hope to feel better, without addressing the source. But emotion isn't random, it's responsive. To change how you feel, you must begin by changing what you focus on. If you constantly think, "I'm behind," you'll feel pressure. If you think, "I'm improving," you'll feel motivation. The mind plants the seed, the heart grows the feeling. Emotions as messengers. Emotions are not enemies to be fought. They are signals, messages from the mind that guide your awareness. Fear says, "Pay attention, there's something uncertain ahead." Anger says, "A boundary has been crossed." Sadness says, "You've lost something meaningful." Joy says, "This is worth keeping." Every emotion serves a purpose. Ignoring them doesn't make them disappear. It makes them louder. When you avoid fear, it grows. When you suppress sadness, it hardens. When you deny anger, it leaks out in other ways. Emotional mastery is not about elimination. It's about education, learning what each feeling means and deciding how to respond to it. For example, if you feel jealous, instead of judging yourself, ask, "What does this emotion reveal about what I desire?" Jealousy often points to something you value but believe you lack. That realization turns envy into insight. Every emotion contains information, energy waiting to be understood. The energy within. Emotion literally means energy in motion. It's the driving force behind every action you take. You don't act because you think, you act because you feel. Think of a time you made a bold decision. You probably didn't make it from logic alone. You felt something powerful, conviction, courage, or determination, and that emotion pushed you forward. Now think of a time you hesitated when opportunity knocked. You might have felt doubt or fear, and that emotion froze you in place. Emotion is neither good nor bad. It's neutral energy. The question is, are you using that energy, or is it using you? When you learn to channel emotion into action, you become unstoppable. When you let it control you, you become reactive and scattered. The story of Maya. Maya worked in a high-pressure environment. She often felt overwhelmed and anxious but told herself to just stay strong. She pushed through, ignoring her emotions, until one day she broke down at work. That night she did something she'd never done before. She listened. She sat in silence and asked herself, "What is this emotion trying to tell me?" The answer was simple. She was exhausted, not weak. Her anxiety wasn't an enemy. It was a message. It was saying, "You're pushing too hard. You need balance." Once she listened, everything changed. She began setting boundaries, taking time to rest, and approaching work with clarity instead of chaos. Her energy stabilized, her performance improved, and her emotions became her allies instead of her burden. That's emotional intelligence in action, listening to your inner signals and responding with wisdom. Emotional intelligence, the art of understanding. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage emotions, both yours and others. It's what allows you to stay calm in conflict, patient under stress, and compassionate even when it's hard. People with high emotional intelligence don't ignore their emotions. They interpret them. They use them as information, not instruction. If anger arises, they ask, "What's causing this?" If sadness appears, they ask, "What needs healing?" If excitement sparks, they ask, "How can I nurture this momentum?" They understand that emotion is data, not destiny, and that understanding gives them emotional freedom. The emotional loop. Here's something fascinating. Emotions create thoughts, and thoughts create emotions. It's a cycle, a feedback loop. You think, "I'm not good enough." You feel shame. The shame produces more self-critical thoughts, and the loop continues. But you can interrupt that loop at any point. When you notice the emotion rising, pause, breathe, name it. Say, "This is frustration." Then choose a new thought. "I can use this energy to improve." That simple shift breaks the loop and transforms emotional energy into forward motion. Using emotion to create change. Emotion drives change more effectively than reason. Logic informs, but emotion transforms. People don't move because they understand. They move because they feel. That's why great leaders inspire. They don't just deliver information. They stir emotion. They ignite belief, courage, and commitment. You can use the same principle in your own life. When you want to change a habit, don't just rely on willpower. Attach emotion to the outcome. Feel what it would be like to succeed. Visualize the pride, the freedom, the peace. Let that emotion become your motivation. Emotion gives power to discipline. It gives meaning to effort. It turns "I have to" into "I want to." The balance between emotion and reason. Emotion gives life color. Reason gives it structure. Without emotion, life becomes cold and mechanical. Without reason, life becomes chaotic and impulsive. The goal is not to choose one over the other. It's to create balance. Reason is the steering. Emotion is the fuel. If you steer without fuel, you go nowhere. If you fuel without steering, you crash. Wisdom comes from knowing when to lead with heart, and when to lead with head. When to act from passion and when to pause for perspective. That balance is what turns emotion from chaos into power. Practical, emotional mastery. Here are a few ways to strengthen your emotional awareness and control. 1. Name what you feel. Say it out loud. "I'm angry. I'm worried. I'm excited." Naming an emotion separates you from it. It turns chaos into clarity. 2. Pause before reacting. When emotion surges, don't speak or act immediately. Take a deep breath. That moment of stillness gives you the power to respond instead of react. 3. Channel energy productively. Turn frustration into drive. Turn fear into preparation. Turn sadness into reflection. Every emotion can be converted into progress when directed intentionally. 4. Practice gratitude daily. Gratitude neutralizes negative emotion by shifting focus from what's missing to what's present. It doesn't erase pain. It reframes it. 5. Move your body. Emotion lives in the body. Physical movement helps release trapped energy and restores balance between thought and feeling. The power of emotional awareness. When you understand your emotions, you gain freedom. When you ignore them, they control you. Emotion is not weakness. It's strength waiting for structure. It's the pulse of the human experience. The goal is not to escape emotion but to evolve with it. When fear shows up, let it sharpen your focus. When joy arrives, let it remind you why you started. When sadness visits, let it deepen your empathy. When anger rises, let it reveal your values. Every emotion is energy, and energy is power. Use it wisely, and you'll move mountains. Closing reflection. Emotion is the invisible current running beneath every decision, every dream, every day of your life. It is neither your enemy nor your master, unless you allow it to be. When you learn to harness emotion, it becomes momentum. When you combine thought and feeling, you create harmony between mind and heart. So the next time emotion stirs within you, don't suppress it. Study it. Ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me? And once you understand, use that energy to take action. Because emotion, when guided by awareness and purpose, is not a storm to survive. It's the wind that fills your sails. Chapter 6. Fear. The Master Illusion. Fear is the master illusion. It looks real. It feels real. It sounds convincing. But most of the time, it's only a shadow, a projection of the mind, not a reflection of truth. Fear is powerful because it knows how to disguise itself. Sometimes it shows up as hesitation. Sometimes it hides behind perfectionism. Sometimes it pretends to be logic, telling you it's too risky, too late, or too hard. But underneath all of it lies one silent message: don't grow. Fear's mission is not to destroy you. It's to protect you. It evolved to keep you safe from danger, not to hold you back from dreams. The problem is, the modern world is no longer filled with tigers and predators, yet the same system that once saved your life now stops you from living it fully. Fear is not the enemy. Believing the illusion is. The nature of fear. Fear begins as a thought, a what if. What if I fail? What if they laugh? What if I lose everything? That single thought triggers a chain reaction in your body. Your heart races, your stomach tightens, your palms sweat, your body prepares to fight or flee. But there's no tiger, no danger, only imagination. Your brain doesn't know the difference between real threat and perceived threat. It reacts to both the same way. That's why fear feels physical even when it's psychological. Fear is simply energy, and like all energy, it can be redirected. You can turn fear into focus, tension into power, and anxiety into awareness. The voice of fear. Fear has a voice. It whispers at the edge of every new beginning. It says things like, who do you think you are? You're not ready. You'll make a fool of yourself. It sounds reasonable because it uses your own voice. That's how fear wins, by pretending to be you. But here's the truth. The closer you get to something meaningful, the louder fear becomes. It's a sign you're on the right path. Fear doesn't visit the indifferent. It visits those who are about to change. So when fear shows up, don't retreat. Recognize it as a marker of importance. Say to yourself, if I'm afraid, it must matter. That awareness transforms fear from a stop sign into a signal. The story of fear and growth. Think of a child learning to walk. They fall hundreds of times before taking their first steady step, but they don't call it failure. They don't quit. They're not afraid of falling because they haven't learned fear yet. Fear is learned. which means it can be unlearned. Somewhere along the way, life teaches us that falling means shame, that mistakes mean judgment, that trying means risking embarrassment, and that lesson builds walls inside the mind. But every great success story belongs to someone who learned to climb those walls instead of bowing to them. A real-world story. Let's talk about Mark. Mark dreamed of becoming a public speaker, but the very thought of standing on stage made his hands shake. He would imagine forgetting his words, embarrassing himself, freezing in front of a crowd. The fear felt real, so he avoided opportunities. One day his mentor said, "Mark, fear is not your enemy. It's your compass. It points toward what's meaningful." So Mark decided to face it, not by ignoring it, but by studying it. He asked himself, "What am I really afraid of?" He realized it wasn't failure. It was rejection, the idea that others might not approve. That awareness changed everything. He started small, speaking to 5 people, then 10, then 50. Each time fear returned, but weaker. Eventually he realized the fear never truly left. He just stopped believing its story. Today Mark speaks to hundreds, not because he's fearless, but because he learned that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to act in spite of it. Fear as a teacher. Every fear hides a lesson. If you fear failure, you value success. If you fear judgment, you crave acceptance. If you fear loss, you value love. Fear reveals what matters most to you. It shows you the edges of your growth. When fear appears, don't ask, "How do I get rid of this?" Ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" That single question turns fear into wisdom. The illusion of control. One of fear's strongest illusions is control. It tells you that if you can just plan enough, prepare enough, or predict enough, you can eliminate uncertainty. But life doesn't work that way. Control is comforting, but it's also limiting. The truth is, growth requires uncertainty. Without it, there's no adventure, no discovery, no transformation. Fear hates uncertainty because it can't measure it. But uncertainty is the birthplace of all progress. Every risk, every leap, every new beginning requires stepping into the unknown. You don't need to eliminate uncertainty. You need to build trust. Trust in your ability to adapt. Trust in your resilience. Trust that whatever happens, you'll find a way through. That's how you break the illusion. The science of fear. Fear is a survival mechanism, governed by a small part of your brain called the amygdala. Its job is to detect threats and trigger your fight or flight response. But the amygdala doesn't know the difference between physical and emotional danger. It reacts the same way to a lion as it does to public speaking, criticism, or failure. The key is not to suppress the response, but to regulate it. You can do this through awareness, breathing, and conscious thought. When you feel fear rise, pause, take a deep breath. This signals the brain that you're safe. The body calms, the mind clears. From that calm, reason returns. Fear fades when faced with presence. How to master fear. Here are some practical ways to work with fear, not against it. 1. Name it. Say out loud what you're afraid of. Naming fear pulls it out of the shadows. It weakens its grip. 2. Breathe through it. When fear strikes, your breathing shortens. Slow, deep breaths tell your brain there's no real threat. 3. Visualize the best outcome. Your mind is already imagining the worst. Balance it by picturing success. Feel what it would be like to thrive, not just survive. 4. Take small steps. Action is the antidote to fear. Every small victory sends a new signal to the brain. See, I can handle this. 5. Reflect afterward. When the fear passes, review the experience. What actually happened versus what you imagined. Most times, you'll realize the fear was exaggerated, an illusion dissolved by reality. Transforming fear into fuel. Fear and excitement are twins. They feel the same in the body. The only difference is the story you tell yourself. The heart races. The breath quickens. The mind sharpens. The signs are identical. Tell yourself, "I'm afraid," and your body freezes. Tell yourself, "I'm excited," and your body prepares for performance. That's how professionals in every field, athletes, actors, leaders turn fear into fuel. They feel the same sensations but label them differently. Instead of saying, "I'm nervous," they say, "I'm ready." That shift of language transforms tension into power. The courage equation. Courage isn't born from the absence of fear. It's born from meaning. When something matters more than your fear, courage appears. A parent runs into danger to save their child, not because they aren't afraid, but because love outweighs fear. An artist shares their work, not because they're fearless, but because expression is more important than approval. When your purpose becomes stronger than your fear, fear loses control. The equation is simple. Courage equals sign. Purpose greater than fear. The gift of fear. Fear reminds you that you're alive. It means you're standing at the edge of growth. It means you're moving towards something new. When fear disappears completely, it often means you've stopped stretching. So instead of running from fear, thank it. Let it remind you that you're evolving, expanding, reaching beyond your comfort zone. The greatest lives were not lived without fear. They were lived beyond it. Closing reflection. Fear is the master illusion. It can paralyze you or propel you, depending on what you believe. It can hold you prisoner, or point you toward your destiny. Every time you act in spite of fear, the illusion fades. Every time you confront what scares you, you grow stronger, and one day you realize fear was never the enemy. It was the teacher preparing you for courage. So, when fear visits, smile, say, "I see you. Thank you for reminding me I'm stepping into something that matters." Then walk forward, not without fear, but beyond it. Because once you see through the illusion, fear no longer leads your life. You do. Chapter 7. Discipline. The mind's silent strength. Discipline is the silent strength of the mind. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't sparkle like talent or charm like passion. But it's the force that holds everything together when excitement fades and emotion fluctuates. Discipline is quiet power, the steady rhythm behind every great life. It's the invisible hand that turns intention into action and dreams into reality. While motivation starts the journey, discipline finishes it. People often say they lack motivation, but what they truly lack is consistency. Motivation is like fire. It burns bright but burns out fast. Discipline is the heat that keeps the flame alive long after the spark is gone. Without discipline, the mind becomes restless and weak. With discipline, the mind becomes stable and strong. It's the difference between being controlled by moods and mastering them. The nature of discipline. Discipline isn't punishment. It's training. It's teaching your mind to obey your purpose instead of your impulses. It's the bridge between wanting and achieving. Think of an athlete. They don't train only when they feel like it. They train because they've made a commitment to something greater than their comfort. Every repetition strengthens their body, but every act of showing up strengthens their mind. That's the real essence of discipline. Doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. It's not about perfection. It's about persistence. Each time you follow through on a promise to yourself, you build trust. And that trust becomes inner power. The confidence that says, if I decide it, I'll do it. The war between emotion and intention. Inside you there's a quiet war. Emotion versus intention. Emotion wants comfort now. Intention wants success later. Emotion says, stay in bed. Intention says, get up and move. Emotion says, eat what feels good. Intention says, eat what fuels you. Emotion says, you deserve a break. Intention says, you promised yourself progress. Discipline is the peacemaker between the two. It listens to emotion but follows intention. You can't silence emotion completely. And you shouldn't. But you can decide which voice drives your choices. That decision, repeated daily, builds the foundation of mastery. The story of early mornings. There's a reason so many successful people talk about early mornings. It's not about waking up before the sun. It's about winning the first battle of the day. When you get up early, you don't just rise before others. You rise before excuses. You prove to yourself that your decisions are stronger than your comfort. It's not the hour that matters. It's the act of choosing discipline when your body says no. That small act sets the tone for everything that follows. Because discipline, once practiced in one area, spreads into all areas. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And the way you treat small commitments determines how you handle big ones. The myth of willpower. Many people think discipline means constant willpower, an endless fight against laziness or temptation. But true discipline isn't about struggle. It's about structure. Willpower fades when you rely on it alone. Structure sustains when you design your environment for success. For example, if you want to eat healthier, don't fight junk food every day. Remove it from your space. If you want to write daily, set a time and place that's dedicated only to writing. If you want to focus better, remove distractions before they appear. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Discipline thrives on simplicity. It's about making good decisions automatic so your energy can be used for creation, not resistance. The power of small acts. Discipline is not built by giant leaps but by small consistent actions. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you grow stronger. Every time you choose progress over procrastination, you build momentum. It might not look heroic in the moment, but those quiet victories are what separate growth from stagnation. Consider this. If you improved just 1% each day, you'd be 37 times better by the end of a year. That's the compound effect of discipline. Small acts done daily create massive change over time. It's not about intensity. It's about consistency. Discipline is the art of steady motion. The real-world story of Aaron. Aaron wanted to get in shape. Every year, he set new goals, new diets, new workout plans, new promises. And every year, he quit after a few weeks. He'd tell himself, I just lost motivation. One day, a trainer told him something that changed everything. Stop waiting for motivation. Treat discipline like brushing your teeth. You don't need to feel inspired to do it. So Aaron did just that. He stopped negotiating with his feelings and started following a schedule. He worked out even when he didn't want to. Some days were sloppy, others strong. But he showed up. 6 months later, his body changed. But more importantly, his mindset transformed. He realized discipline wasn't about perfection. It was about progress. And that progress became addictive. When you stay consistent long enough, discipline becomes part of who you are. It stops being something you force. It becomes something you live. Discipline and freedom. Here's the paradox most people miss. Discipline doesn't restrict you, it frees you. Without discipline, you're a slave to mood, habit, and distraction. You spend your days reacting instead of creating. But with discipline, you gain control. You decide what matters. You decide when to act. Freedom is not the absence of structure, it's the mastery of it. When your time is structured, your mind is free. When your habits are disciplined, your creativity flows without resistance. Discipline builds freedom because it gives your life direction. It keeps your energy from leaking into what doesn't matter, the mind and the moment. Discipline begins in a single moment, the moment of decision. Every time you choose to act, even when you don't feel like it, you strengthen your inner command. Each decision becomes a small victory over resistance. Think of those moments when you almost quit, but didn't. That's discipline speaking. A calm, firm voice that says, stay the course. It's not dramatic. It's not emotional. It's grounded, steady, and reliable. That's why discipline is silent strength. It doesn't argue with the mind. It directs it. Building the habit of discipline. Here are practical ways to cultivate discipline daily. 1. Start with one thing. Don't try to change everything at once. Pick one habit, something small and specific, and master it first. 2. Make it visible. Track your progress. Seeing your consistency builds pride and reinforces the behavior. 3. Keep promises to yourself. When you say you'll do something, do it. Your mind remembers every kept promise, and every broken one. Self-respect grows from self-trust. 4. Remove the need for choice. Don't debate with yourself. Set rules. For example, I write at 8 a.m., or I don't skip workouts. Decide once. Act daily. 5. Reward progress. Celebrate small wins. Acknowledgement fuels momentum and keeps the journey enjoyable. Discipline and identity. The highest level of discipline is identity. When you stop saying, I'm trying to be disciplined, and start saying, I am disciplined, everything changes. Your behavior follows your identity. If you see yourself as someone who keeps commitments, you'll naturally act that way. If you see yourself as inconsistent, your actions will match that story. So stop trying to force new habits into an old identity. Become the kind of person who lives with discipline. Speak it, believe it, embody it. The emotional side of discipline. Discipline isn't cold or mechanical. It's emotional strength in motion. It's choosing long-term peace over short-term pleasure. It's saying no to the easy path so you can say yes to the meaningful one. Discipline feels hard at first, but it creates ease later. Laziness feels easy at first, but it creates hardship later. Every time you choose discipline, you're choosing your future self over your current comfort. That's not restriction, that's love. Closing reflection. Discipline is not about control, it's about freedom through consistency. It's not a punishment, it's a promise. A promise that says, I am committed to my growth, no matter how I feel. When you master discipline, life becomes simpler. You no longer need to rely on emotion to act. You act because it's who you are. Discipline is the quiet power that keeps you grounded when others give up. It's the unseen force behind every achievement, every transformation, every success story. So don't wait for motivation. Don't chase inspiration. Just decide and do again and again. Because in the end, discipline doesn't just build results, it builds character. And that, more than anything else, is the mark of a mastered mind. Chapter 8. Habits. Training the mind to obey. Habits are the mind's way of saving energy. They are shortcuts, patterns built through repetition, that allow the brain to act without thinking. Every day, from the moment you wake up to the time you fall asleep, your life is largely run by habits. The way you brush your teeth, check your phone, speak to others, and even think, these are all habits in motion. They're the invisible rhythm of your existence. Here's the truth. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. Your habits determine your future, long before your willpower does. Because when something becomes automatic, it no longer requires effort. It becomes identity. If discipline is the silent strength of the mind, then habits are the structure that keeps that strength alive. They train the mind to obey, to act on command, even without emotion or motivation. The power of repetition. Every habit begins with repetition. Do something once. It's an action. Do it twice. It's a choice. Do it daily. It becomes automatic. The brain loves patterns. When it notices a repeated action, it builds a neural pathway, a mental shortcut, so it can perform the same action faster next time. That's why habits feel easier over time. You're literally wiring your mind for efficiency. The same process that creates bad habits creates good ones. The difference lies in direction. A habit doesn't care whether it helps or harms you. It simply follows repetition. That's why awareness, discipline, and consistency are crucial. They're the architects of your routines, the ones who decide what gets built into your life and what gets torn down. The formula of habit formation. Every habit follows a simple loop. Cue, routine, reward. Cue, a trigger that starts the behavior. Routine, the behavior itself. Reward, the satisfaction or relief that reinforces it. For example, you feel stressed. Cue, you check your phone. Routine, you feel distracted and relieved. Reward. Over time, your brain connects the cue with the reward, forming a loop. That's how even unhealthy habits become comforting. The brain learns that they lead to temporary pleasure. To build new habits, you must design this loop intentionally. Replace the routine but keep the cue and the reward. If your cue is stress, change the response. Instead of scrolling, breathe deeply or take a short walk. If your cue is fatigue, replace junk food with rest or hydration. The cue stays the same, but the outcome changes. That's how new habits overwrite old ones. Through redirection, not resistance. The mind learns through consistency. Consistency is the foundation of habit formation. The brain learns by repetition, not by intensity. You don't need to run a marathon tomorrow. You just need to start walking today. You don't need to meditate for an hour. Start with 5 minutes. You don't need to write a book in a week. Start with a paragraph a day. It's not what you do once that matters. It's what you do consistently. Small actions repeated daily become who you are. The person who writes every day becomes a writer. The person who exercises regularly becomes an athlete. The person who studies daily becomes wise. Habits don't just create results. They create identity. The story of routine. Let's look at Ava. Ava was overwhelmed. Her days felt chaotic. Too many tasks, too many distractions, not enough energy. She admired disciplined people and thought they were born different. But one morning she decided to start small. She made her bed, then she drank water. Then she wrote down 3 priorities for the day. Those 3 simple acts became her morning routine. It wasn't glamorous, but it was grounding. Each day began with clarity and control. Weeks later, Ava noticed something remarkable. Her productivity improved. Her stress reduced. She didn't just have more time. She had more direction. That's the quiet power of habit. It doesn't change everything overnight. It changes the pattern beneath everything. The mind and momentum. Habits create momentum, and momentum creates motivation. We often wait for motivation to start, but motivation often comes after we start. When you act, your brain releases dopamine, the chemical of progress and reward. This positive feedback encourages you to repeat the action. That's why starting small matters. When you complete something, no matter how minor, your brain feels rewarded. That feeling builds momentum for the next step. Success is emotional before it's logical. Habits tap into that emotional loop, giving you steady progress that fuels itself. The habit of thought. Habits don't only live in actions, they live in thoughts. Many people have mental habits that shape how they experience life. Some have a habit of gratitude. They notice what's good. Others have a habit of worry. They expect what's wrong. Some have a habit of self-belief. Others have a habit of self-doubt. You can train your thoughts the same way you train your body. Start noticing your automatic patterns. When your mind says, "I can't," replace it with "I'm learning." When it says, "This is too hard," say, "This is how I grow." The more you practice these new thoughts, the more automatic they become. Over time, positive thinking stops being an effort. It becomes your mental default. That's what it means to train the mind to obey. You stop following every thought, and instead, teach your thoughts to follow you. Breaking bad habits. Breaking a bad habit doesn't require fighting it. It requires understanding it. Ask yourself 3 questions. What triggers it? What does it give me? What can I do instead? Let's say you procrastinate. The trigger might be fear of failure. The reward is temporary relief. The solution: replace avoidance with action. Start small and build confidence. Every habit exists for a reason. Once you understand that reason, you can replace the behavior with something better that meets the same need. Remember, the goal isn't to remove habits but to upgrade them. Automation and identity. When you build the right habits, your life runs on autopilot, not by accident, but by design. You stop wasting energy on daily decisions. You know what to do, when to do it, and why it matters. That's the power of habit. It frees your mind for creativity, learning, and growth. You become consistent without having to think about it. And consistency, not intensity, builds greatness. Soon your habits stop being actions. They become identity. You no longer say, "I'm trying to be organized." You say, "I'm an organized person." You no longer say, "I'm learning discipline." You say, "I am disciplined." Identity locks in habit, because when something becomes who you are, it no longer requires force. It flows naturally. Designing your habit system. To build powerful habits, design a system that supports them. 1. Make good habits easy. Prepare your environment. Lay out your clothes the night before. Keep water on your desk. Simplify access to the actions you want to repeat. 2. Make bad habits hard. Add friction. If social media distracts you, delete the app or keep your phone out of reach. If junk food tempts you, don't keep it nearby. 3. Stack new habits on old ones. Attach new behaviors to existing routines. After brushing your teeth, meditate for 2 minutes. After pouring coffee, review your goals. This is called habit stacking. One action triggers another automatically. 4. Reward your progress. Track consistency, not perfection. Celebrate the act of showing up. That's what builds momentum. The compound effect of habits. Every habit compounds positively or negatively. Good habits compound into growth. Bad habits compound into regret. Skipping one workout or one reading session doesn't matter much, but skipping them repeatedly turns into a lifestyle. Likewise, one small positive habit, done daily, can reshape your entire future. Your habits are your quiet investment. They pay you interest over time, and the longer you keep them, the greater the return. Closing reflection. Habits are the training ground of the mind. They are proof that consistency is stronger than emotion and structure is stronger than chance. When you master your habits, you master your life. You stop living by reaction and start living by design. Remember this. Every day you are practicing something. The question is, what are you practicing becoming? Because your habits are not just actions, they are votes for the kind of person you wish to be. So build habits that serve your future, not your past. Teach your mind to obey your highest goals, not your lowest impulses. And soon effort will fade, because greatness will become automatic. Chapter 9. The Power of Thought. What you think, you become. Everything begins in the mind. Every success, every mistake, every dream, every downfall, it all starts with a single thought. Your thoughts are not random flickers in your head. They are the architects of your reality. Each thought plants a seed, and with time, those seeds grow into beliefs, habits, and actions. Your life is the harvest of the thoughts you've been cultivating, consciously or unconsciously. If you want to change your life, you must first change your thinking, because what you think, you become. The creative power of thought. The human mind is the most creative force on earth. Everything that exists in the physical world, every building, invention, business, or book, first existed as an idea. Before it became visible, it was invisible. Before it became real, it was imagined. A thought is like a blueprint. It begins small and abstract, but if you hold it long enough, it begins to take form. Thoughts attract energy, people, and opportunities that match their frequency. When you think of success, you act like someone capable of success. When you think of failure, you act like someone expecting defeat. Your thoughts are magnets. They draw toward you whatever aligns with their nature. This is not magic. It's psychology. You see, the mind always looks for evidence to support what it believes. If you believe you can, your brain starts searching for ways to make it true. If you believe you can't, your brain stops looking. You always prove yourself right, because your thoughts lead the way. The invisible script. Most people live their lives following an invisible script written by their thoughts. This script determines how they see themselves, how they treat others, and how far they believe they can go. If the script says, "I'm not enough," then no amount of praise feels satisfying. If it says, "I always fail," then every challenge feels like confirmation. But if the script says, "I'm capable of learning, growing, and improving," then even setbacks become lessons. You are not your thoughts, but your thoughts can shape who you become. That's why awareness is the first step to mastery. When you start noticing the thoughts you repeat most often, you discover the story you've been telling yourself about your life. And once you see that story, you can rewrite it. The story of Sam. Sam was a talented designer who constantly doubted himself. Every time he presented a new idea, a voice inside whispered, "You're not good enough. Someone else can do it better." So he hesitated, overthought, and sometimes didn't share his work at all. One day his mentor said something that shifted everything. "Sam, every masterpiece starts as a sketch, imperfect, uncertain, and messy. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't talent. It's thought. That struck him deeply. He began observing his thinking patterns. Every time the voice of doubt appeared, he replaced it with "I'm improving with every design." At first it felt fake, forced, unnatural, but over time that new thought became familiar, and eventually it became belief. Months later, Sam began to lead projects he once avoided. His creativity flourished because he no longer thought like a failure trying to succeed. He thought like a creator in progress. That's the power of thought in motion. Change your thinking and your world rearranges itself to match. Thought and emotion. Thoughts create emotions, and emotions fuel action. A single thought can raise your energy or drain it completely. Think, "I can handle this," and your body feels calm and ready. Think, "I can't do this," and tension floods your system. The emotion follows the thought, not the other way around. That's why managing your thoughts isn't just a mental exercise, it's emotional hygiene. By cleaning your thoughts, you clear your emotions. By directing your focus, you stabilize your mood. The mind and body are partners. Feed your mind with peace, and your body relaxes. Feed it with worry, and your body reacts as if danger is near. You are always thinking yourself into a feeling and feeling yourself into an action. That's how thought shapes behavior, and behavior shapes destiny. The law of focus. What you focus on expands. If you focus on problems, you'll find more problems. If you focus on gratitude, you'll discover abundance. If you focus on fear, you'll attract more reasons to be afraid. Your mind is like a magnifying glass. It enlarges whatever you place beneath it. So choose carefully where you direct your mental lens. When something negative happens, pause and ask, "What else could this mean?" That question shifts your thought from reaction to reflection. It gives you control. Remember, you can't always choose what happens, but you can always choose what to think about it. And that choice determines your experience more than the event itself. The science of thought. Modern neuroscience confirms that your thoughts literally reshape your brain. This is called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections based on repeated thinking. When you repeat a thought, your brain strengthens the neural pathway associated with it. It's like carving a groove in your mind. The more often you think it, the deeper the groove becomes, making that thought easier to access next time. That's why habits of thought are so powerful. They become mental highways. If your repeated thoughts are empowering, they lead you forward effortlessly. If they're negative, they keep you looping in the same place. Your brain doesn't judge your thoughts, it just obeys them. So it's your responsibility to feed it thoughts that serve your growth, not your fear. Thinking and reality. The world doesn't change when you hope it will. It changes when you think differently about it. If you see challenges as obstacles, they'll stop you. If you see challenges as training, they'll strengthen you. It's the same situation. Different thinking, different outcome. When you think like a victim, you look for blame. When you think like a leader, you look for responsibility. When you think like a creator, you look for opportunity. The difference between struggle and success isn't the world, it's the mind viewing it. Training the mind to think powerfully. Here are some ways to strengthen your thinking patterns. 1. Watch your inner language. Every time you say "I can't," you close a door. Every time you say "I can learn," you open one. 2. Practice thought replacement. When a negative thought appears, don't fight it. Redirect it. Replace "this is too hard" with "this is how I grow stronger." 3. Surround yourself with strong thinkers. Thoughts are contagious. Spend time around people who think with clarity, optimism and purpose. 4. Feed your mind with quality input. What you read, watch and listen to shapes what you think about. Choose content that uplifts, challenges and expands your perspective. 5. Reflect daily. At the end of each day, ask what thoughts guided my actions today. Awareness builds control. Control builds transformation. The story of the garden. Imagine your mind as a garden. Thoughts are the seeds. Some are flowers. Some are weeds. Whatever you water will grow. If you water fear, doubt and negativity, the garden becomes overrun with thorns. If you water courage, gratitude and discipline, it blossoms into beauty and peace. You can't stop weeds from appearing. They're part of nature. But you can stop them from taking over. You can pull them out as soon as they sprout. That's how you train your mind. Not by avoiding negative thoughts, but by refusing to nurture them. Thought, belief, and becoming. Every repeated thought becomes a belief. Every belief becomes a behavior. Every behavior becomes a result. And every result reinforces the original thought. That's the cycle of becoming. If you believe you're capable, you act accordingly, and success follows. That success then reinforces the belief, strengthening it even more. The same happens with doubt. So the real question is, what kind of thoughts are you feeding? Because they're building the foundation for who you'll become next year, next decade, next lifetime. You are both the sculptor and the clay. Your thoughts are the tools. Closing reflection. You are always becoming the sum of your dominant thoughts. Think scarcity, and you'll live small. Think growth, and you'll live expansive. Think fear, and you'll find limits. Think faith, and you'll find possibilities. Your thoughts are not powerless. They are creative forces shaping your reality. And the beautiful truth is this: you can choose them. So choose thoughts that align with your highest self. Choose thoughts that energize, not drain. Choose thoughts that move you toward who you want to be, not who you were. Because the mind always builds what it believes. And when you finally learn to think with intention, you'll discover that the world wasn't waiting to change. It was waiting for you to. Chapter 10. Resistance. The mind's defense mechanism. Resistance. It's the quiet force that rises whenever you try to change, grow, or move forward. It's invisible, but it's powerful. It shows up as hesitation, distraction, procrastination, and self-doubt. It tells you to wait until tomorrow, to think a little longer, to prepare just one more time before you act. Resistance doesn't shout. It whispers. It sounds logical, even protective. But make no mistake, resistance is the mind's defense mechanism. It's how your subconscious tries to keep you safe, even when safety means staying stuck. Every time you step toward progress, your mind senses uncertainty, and uncertainty feels like danger. So it triggers resistance, trying to pull you back to the familiar, not because it hates you, but because it fears losing control. The tragedy is that most people mistake resistance for reason. They believe it. They let it decide what's possible. But the truth is, resistance is not a wall. It's a test. It asks, how badly do you want this? And the moment you push through it, you reclaim power over your own mind. The nature of resistance. Resistance lives in everyone. It's not personal. It's universal. Every artist, entrepreneur, parent, student or dreamer faces it. The bigger the goal, the stronger the resistance. You can feel it every time you start something meaningful. The moment you sit down to write, you suddenly remember errands. When you decide to eat healthy, cravings grow stronger. When you plan to start a business, doubts flood in. That's not coincidence. That's the mind defending its comfort zone. The brain loves certainty. It equates familiar with safe. So when you try to do something new, it pushes back. It's like an alarm going off. Stop. We've never been here before. But if you look closely, you'll see something important. The presence of resistance means you're moving in the right direction. You don't feel resistance when you're standing still. You feel it when you're growing. The psychology behind resistance. To understand resistance, you must understand the mind's purpose: survival. Your subconscious is always scanning for risk, and change, even positive change, feels risky. That's why your mind clings to old habits. It doesn't care whether they're good or bad, only that they're predictable. Predictability feels safe. Uncertainty feels dangerous. So when you decide to change, to break a pattern, to create, to improve, your subconscious resists. It says, don't go there. Stay where you are. It disguises fear as logic. This isn't the right time. You're not ready. You should wait until conditions are perfect. And if you don't catch it, you'll confuse self-protection with self-sabotage. The solution isn't to eliminate resistance. It's to recognize it. When you see it clearly, it loses its power. The story of Daniel. Daniel had dreamed of writing a novel for years. He had ideas, talent and passion. But every time he sat down to write, something got in the way. Suddenly the room needed cleaning. The phone needed checking. He'd tell himself, I'll start tomorrow when I'm more inspired. Months passed, then years. One day a friend said something that pierced through his excuses. Daniel, your problem isn't time, it's resistance. You're waiting for the perfect moment that doesn't exist. That night, he sat down and wrote one sentence. Just one. The next day he wrote another. Slowly the words began to flow, not because fear vanished, but because he stopped waiting for it to. 2 years later, Daniel finished his book. And when people asked how he overcame procrastination, he said, I didn't. I just stopped believing it. That's the power of recognition. When you see resistance for what it is, a signal, not a stop sign, it loses its authority. The many faces of resistance. Resistance doesn't always appear as fear. Sometimes it hides in subtle, convincing forms. 1. Perfectionism. I'll start when it's perfect. Perfectionism isn't about high standards. It's about fear of judgment. The perfect moment never arrives because the goal isn't progress, it's protection. Distraction. I'll just check one more thing. The modern mind is addicted to noise. Distraction feels productive, but it's resistance in disguise. It keeps you busy enough to feel active but unfocused enough to stay stuck. 3. Doubt. Maybe I'm not good enough. Doubt is resistance wearing honesty's mask. It pretends to be truth, but it's fear avoiding responsibility. 4. Fatigue. I'm too tired to start. When resistance can't win mentally, it attacks physically. It drains your energy, convinces you that rest means avoidance, and keeps you still. 5. Logic. It's not practical. Sometimes resistance sounds smart. It lists reasons why the dream won't work. Numbers, facts, data, all to keep you safe. But behind every form of resistance lies one core emotion. Fear. Fear of failure. Fear of success. Fear of change. Recognize that, and you can name it. Name it, and you can master it. The turning point. Every act of growth requires facing resistance head-on. It's the price of progress, and the reward is power. When you push through resistance, something incredible happens. The energy it used to block you becomes the energy that drives you. What once felt like friction becomes fuel. Think of a plane taking off. It doesn't rise despite resistance. It rises because of it. The same force that slows it down on the runway creates the lift that carries it upward. That's how resistance works in life. It feels heavy at first, but once you move through it, it becomes your strength. How to overcome resistance. 1. Expect it. Don't be surprised when resistance appears. Anticipate it. That alone disarms its power. 2. Start small. Action weakens resistance faster than thought. Take one small step. Write one paragraph. Make one call. Once you start, momentum builds. 3. Stay consistent. Resistance thrives on interruption. Show up daily, even briefly, and you'll train your mind to move despite discomfort. 4. Separate feeling from fact. Just because you feel resistance doesn't mean you shouldn't act. Feelings are signals, not commands. 5. Remember your why. When the purpose is strong, resistance loses power. You're no longer running from discomfort. You're moving toward meaning. The gift within resistance. Here's the truth that few people realize. Resistance is not your enemy. It's your compass. It shows you where your growth lies. If something scares you deeply, it's often because it matters deeply. The projects you resist most are usually the ones that would transform you the most. The writer resists writing. The entrepreneur resists launching. The speaker resists speaking. Why? Because those acts reveal who you truly are, and the mind fears exposure. But the only way to grow is through that very exposure. When you move through resistance, you don't just achieve, you evolve. The resistance of success. Many believe resistance disappears once you succeed. It doesn't. It simply changes form. In the beginning, resistance says, you can't do it. Later it says, don't lose what you've built. The fear of failure becomes the fear of falling. That's why growth never ends. Because resistance keeps pace with your potential. But that's not bad news. That's balance. It ensures you never stop refining your strength. The goal isn't to eliminate resistance, but to rise above it every time it appears. That's how you build resilience, confidence and mastery. Closing reflection. Resistance is the mind's natural reflex. Its way of saying, are you sure? But the mind often forgets that safety and stagnation can look the same. The next time resistance appears, smile. See it for what it is. A sign that you're growing, stretching, becoming something new. Don't fight it. Don't fear it. Acknowledge it. Breathe through it. And act anyway. Because beyond resistance lies everything you've been seeking. Purpose, confidence, achievement, freedom. The mind builds walls to protect you. Discipline, courage and awareness are the tools that help you climb them. And when you do, you'll realize that resistance was never your enemy. It was the final guardian before transformation. The last test before the next version of you. Chapter 11. Focused action. Turning thought into motion. Thought without action is potential unrealized. Action without focus is energy wasted. Between the two lies the bridge to achievement. Focused action. This is where dreams take shape, ideas gain power, and plans become progress. Because no matter how clear your vision, how strong your desire, or how detailed your plan, nothing changes until you move. Focused action is not frantic movement. It's deliberate motion, guided by purpose. It's the art of turning thought into reality. One decision, one step, one consistent effort at a time. Most people live in their minds, always thinking, planning, imagining. They wait for the right time, the right confidence, the perfect moment. But life rewards action, not intention. Motion creates clarity. Doing reveals what thinking alone cannot. When you learn to focus your action, every movement counts. You stop scattering energy across 100 directions and start channeling it toward what truly matters. The bridge between thought and reality. Every great creation begins twice. First in the mind, then in the world. The first creation is imagination. The second is execution. Many people get stuck between the two. They think, plan and analyze, but never cross the bridge. They confuse motion with progress. They prepare endlessly but never begin. Focused action is what completes the bridge. It takes what's abstract and gives it form. Think of an architect. A building exists in his mind long before it stands on the ground. He can visualize every wall and window, but until he draws the plans and lays the bricks, the vision remains invisible. Your dreams work the same way. Thought gives direction, action gives life. The law of momentum. Action builds momentum and momentum builds motivation. It's a universal law of progress. You don't wait to feel ready. You act to become ready. Once you start, the energy of motion fuels itself. Have you ever noticed how hard it is to start something, but how easy it becomes once you begin? That's the power of momentum. The hardest step is the first. The moment you shift from thought to motion, it's like pushing a heavy wheel. At first it resists, but once it starts rolling, it takes less and less effort to keep it moving. Action creates its own energy. This is why discipline matters so much. You don't act because you feel inspired. You act so that inspiration has somewhere to find you. Focus versus busyness. There's a difference between being busy and being productive. Busy people move constantly, but without direction. Focused people move intentionally, toward a clear purpose. Busyness feels satisfying in the moment, because it gives the illusion of progress. But without focus, all that motion becomes noise. You may end the day exhausted, but not closer to your goals. Focused action is calm. It's precise. It doesn't waste effort. It knows where it's going and why. Ask yourself each day, am I moving, or am I progressing? If your actions don't align with your priorities, they're distractions disguised as effort. The story of Elena. Elena had always dreamed of starting a small business. She read books, watched videos, took notes and created endless plans. But every time she was ready to start, doubt crept in. What if it fails? What if I'm not ready? One day, a mentor asked her a simple question. What's one small step you can take today that moves you closer to your goal? She paused and realized she didn't need to launch a full company. She just needed to sell one product. So she did. One step led to another. Soon she had customers, a brand and a business. Years later, Elena said something profound. I spent years thinking about success, but success didn't come until I stopped thinking about thinking and started doing. That's the secret. You don't have to take a giant leap. You just have to take the next step in focus, in faith, in motion. The power of clarity. You can't act with focus if your destination is unclear. Unclear goals create scattered action. Clarity simplifies effort. Before you act, ask 3 simple questions. What exactly do I want? Why does it matter? What is the next step? Don't try to solve everything at once. You don't need the entire map, just the next mile. Clarity focuses your energy and reduces the noise that drains it. Remember, a laser is simply light focused to a single point, and that's what makes it powerful enough to cut through steel. Focus your energy the same way, and nothing can stand in your way. Action reveals truth. Action doesn't just move you forward, it teaches you. When you act, you gather feedback. You discover what works and what doesn't. You learn through experience, what no book or theory can teach. Many people fear failure, so they never begin. But failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of it. Action is the only way to refine your understanding of what works. You can't learn to swim by reading about water. You have to step in, feel the resistance, adjust and try again. Each action refines your awareness. Each mistake strengthens your strategy. Each small win builds your confidence. That's how thought becomes mastery. Through motion, not theory. Focused action and time. Time is neutral. It doesn't decide what you do with it. When you act with focus, time becomes an ally. When you drift without direction, time becomes a thief. Every hour is an investment of energy. Spend it wisely. Ask yourself, is what I'm doing now moving me closer to who I want to be? If the answer is no, redirect your focus. Don't let busyness disguise avoidance. Focused action is about precision, not speed. It's about doing less, but doing it well. It's about trading scattered motion for deliberate progress. How to practice focused action. 1. Begin before you feel ready. Readiness is a myth. You'll never feel completely prepared. Start now. Clarity comes through action. 2. Break it down. Big goals overwhelm the mind. Divide them into smaller specific tasks that feel manageable. Completion creates momentum. 3. Protect your focus. Remove distractions. Silence unnecessary noise, digital or mental. Give your full attention to one thing at a time. 4. Measure progress, not perfection. Perfection paralyzes progress. Focus on improvement, not flawlessness. 5. End each day with review. Ask, what did I move forward today? Even one meaningful action is victory. The relationship between focus and flow. When focus deepens, something magical happens. You enter flow. Flow is the state where action feels effortless. Time disappears, and you become one with the task. It's the mind working at its highest potential. Flow doesn't happen by accident. It happens when focus, challenge, and skill align. When you push yourself just beyond comfort but not into chaos. That's where mastery grows. On the edge of challenge. You can't think your way into flow. You must act your way into it. The story of the archer. There's an old parable about an archer who trained for years to hit the center of the target. When he focused too hard on the prize, he missed. When he relaxed too much, he lost precision. But when he entered stillness, complete attention without tension, the arrow flew true. That's focused action. It's calm intensity. It's clarity without chaos. It's motion guided by meaning. You don't rush. You don't freeze. You align your thought, emotion and body, and let the arrow fly. Closing reflection. Thought gives birth to vision. Focus gives it shape. Action gives it life. Without action, even the greatest ideas remain ghosts of possibility. Without focus, even the hardest work leads nowhere. So when you feel hesitation, act. When you feel doubt, move anyway. When you don't know everything, start with what you know. Focused action is not about speed. It's about direction. It's about showing up, again and again, with purpose in your steps and clarity in your mind. Every result you desire lies beyond hesitation. The bridge between who you are and who you can become is built with one thing: action done with focus. So don't just think it, do it. And let your movement become the message that thought alone could never deliver. Chapter 12. Stillness. The Master Key. In a world that never stops moving, stillness has become a forgotten art. We rush from task to task, scroll endlessly, chase goals, chase people, chase time, but few ever stop to ask, where is all this motion leading? Stillness is not the absence of movement, it's the presence of awareness. It's the quiet space where clarity lives, where truth speaks, and where the mind finally hears itself. Stillness is the master key, the one that unlocks every other principle you've learned so far. Because without stillness, focus scatters. Without stillness, discipline burns out. Stillness, even action loses direction. When the mind is calm, everything becomes clear. When the mind is loud, even the simplest truth is lost in the noise. The power of quiet. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing one thing, being present. It's not about sitting cross-legged in silence. It's about pausing long enough to reconnect with yourself. It's about stepping out of constant reaction and returning to conscious creation. Most people fear stillness because they've built their identity on activity. They equate stillness with laziness. But the truth is, stillness is strength in rest. Imagine a lake. When the water is agitated, you see nothing but ripples. But when the water settles, you can see straight to the bottom. That's what happens to the mind when you find stillness. You see things as they really are. Stillness is not escape. It's engagement on a deeper level. It's when you stop running long enough to understand what you're running from. The noise within. We often think noise only comes from the outside. Phones buzzing, people talking, deadlines calling. But the loudest noise is internal. It's the endless commentary of the mind. What if this goes wrong? What will they think of me? Did I do enough? This noise is what drains your peace. It's what keeps you restless even when life is quiet. Stillness silences that inner storm, not by force but by awareness. You don't fight the noise. You observe it until it loses power. When you step back and simply watch your thoughts, they start to slow down. You realize that you are not the noise. You are the one listening. That realization changes everything. It's the moment your mind stops being your master and becomes your tool again. The story of Clara. Clara was an ambitious executive, always busy, always achieving. Her calendar was full, her phone never stopped ringing, and her mind never rested. Success brought her everything she thought she wanted, except peace. One evening, overwhelmed and exhausted, she turned off her phone and sat in silence. For the first time in years, she did nothing. The first few minutes felt unbearable. Her thoughts screamed for distraction. But as she sat longer, something shifted. She began to notice the rhythm of her breath, the quiet hum of life around her, the weight she had been carrying in her chest. And in that quiet, she heard a voice she had ignored for years, her own. It told her something simple but powerful. You don't have to run to be worthy. That single moment of stillness didn't just relax her, it realigned her. She didn't quit her career or move to a mountain. She just learned to pause, and that pause became her power. Because stillness doesn't remove you from life, it reconnects you to it. The mind and the mirror. Stillness is like holding up a mirror to your inner world. It reflects your thoughts, your fears, your hopes, and your truth. At first you might not like what you see. Stillness exposes what busyness hides. But that's the point. You can't change what you refuse to face. When you sit in silence, Uncomfortable emotions rise to the surface. Regret, guilt, anger, fear, all the things you've buried beneath activity. Don't run from them. Observe them. They lose their grip when you stop feeding them with avoidance. Stillness gives you the courage to meet yourself, completely and honestly. And that meeting is the beginning of real transformation. Stillness and power. Stillness is often mistaken for weakness, but it's the foundation of power. Great leaders, artists and thinkers throughout history understood this. They didn't act impulsively. They acted intentionally. They paused before they spoke, reflected before they moved, and acted from clarity, not chaos. Power doesn't come from force. It comes from centeredness. When you're still, you're not reacting to life. You're responding to it. That's the difference between living by emotion and living by wisdom. A person without stillness reacts to every problem. A person grounded in stillness becomes the calm in the storm. The science of stillness. Modern neuroscience has caught up to ancient wisdom. Studies show that periods of stillness, through meditation, deep breathing, or quiet reflection, reduce stress, strengthen focus, and increase creativity. When you slow down, your brain's prefrontal cortex, the center of decision-making and clarity, activates more efficiently. Meanwhile, the overactive fight or flight system calms down. Stillness isn't just spiritual, it's biological. Your mind and body are designed to rest, reflect and restore. Without that pause you run on survival, not creation. The art of practicing stillness. You don't need hours of meditation to practice stillness. You just need intention. Here are simple ways to begin. 1. Start your day in silence. Before checking your phone, take a few deep breaths. Feel your surroundings. Set your tone for the day with calm awareness. 2. Practice mindful moments. Throughout the day, pause and notice your breath, your posture, your thoughts. This brings your awareness back to the present. 3. Step into nature. Stillness lives in natural places. The sound of wind, the rhythm of waves, the silence between birdsong. Let nature reset your nervous system. 4. Journal your thoughts. Writing is active stillness. It lets your mind express itself, while your body remains calm. 5. End your day with reflection. Before bed, spend 5 quiet minutes, reviewing the day without judgment. Notice what felt aligned, and what didn't. These moments may seem small, but they rewire your relationship with peace, stillness, and the present moment. Stillness exists only now. You can't be still yesterday or tomorrow. You can only be still here, in this breath, in this moment. The present moment is where power lives. It's where insight arises, where healing happens, and where your true self resides. When you're anchored in the present, the mind loses its grip on worry and regret. You stop living in the noise of what was or what might be, and you start experiencing what is. That's not escapism. That's awareness, the purest form of intelligence. The paradox of stillness and action. Stillness doesn't oppose action. It refines it. The most effective actions arise from inner calm, not chaos. When you act from stillness, your energy is pure, your decisions clear, your movements precise. Think of a skilled martial artist. Before every strike, there's a moment of perfect stillness, a pause of awareness. In that pause, focus aligns with purpose. Then, when motion comes, it's powerful and efficient. That's how life works too. Stillness before action creates mastery. It ensures that what you do comes from intention, not reaction. The still point. In the center of every storm there's a still point, the eye of the hurricane. While the winds roar around it, the center remains calm. That still point exists in you. It's the part of you that doesn't panic, doesn't fear, doesn't rush. It's the place where wisdom lives. When you find it, the chaos of life no longer controls you. You can move through uncertainty with peace, because you've discovered something unshakable inside. That's the ultimate gift of stillness. Inner stability. When everything else wavers, you remain centered. Closing reflection. Stillness is the master key. It opens the door to clarity, discipline, focus, and emotional balance. It reconnects you to the present, to your purpose, and to yourself. In stillness, you hear the truth behind the noise. You remember who you are beneath the roles, the goals, and the demands. You stop chasing life and begin experiencing it. So, take a breath. Slow down. Listen, not to the world but to the quiet within. Because in that quiet space lies everything you've been seeking: peace, wisdom, and power. Stillness is not the end of action. It's where true action begins. Chapter 13. The environment. The mind's hidden mirror. Your environment is more than the space around you. It's a living reflection of your inner world. A mirror that reveals how you think, how you feel, and how you live. Look closely, and you'll notice it. The clutter on your desk mirrors the clutter in your thoughts. The order of your workspace reflects the order of your focus. The energy of your surroundings often matches the energy within you. You may believe your environment shapes you from the outside, but the truth runs both ways. Your inner state creates your outer world, and your outer world reinforces your inner state. Change one, and the other begins to shift. That's why mastering your environment is one of the most powerful ways to master your mind. The mirror effect. Every environment, physical, social, or digital, carries energy, and energy is contagious. Spend time in messy, negative, chaotic spaces, and your thinking slowly mirrors that chaos. Spend time in clean, calm, and inspired places, and your thoughts begin to reflect that calm. It's not superstition, it's psychology. The human brain is highly adaptive. It takes cues from its surroundings to decide how to behave. When you walk into a library, your body softens and your voice lowers. When you step into a gym, your energy rises. When you enter a dark, cluttered room, your motivation drops. That's not coincidence. That's conditioning. Your environment tells your brain what's expected of you. So the question is, what is your environment telling you right now? The story of the artist. Lena was a young painter with incredible talent, but constant frustration. She wanted to create every day, but her studio was a mess. Canvases stacked, brushes unwashed, piles of half-finished work scattered everywhere. She told herself that creativity required chaos, but deep down she felt blocked. One day she decided to clean, not out of boredom but out of desperation. She cleared her desk, organized her tools, threw out what she no longer needed. The process took hours, but when she finished, something unexpected happened. Her mind felt lighter. Her thoughts flowed. Her next painting came alive effortlessly. That day she realized something powerful. Her environment wasn't just where she worked. It was shaping how she worked. Your surroundings either drain your energy or multiply it. They can be a silent prison or a silent partner in your growth. Physical space and mental clarity. The outer order of your space creates inner order in your thoughts. When your surroundings are intentional, your mind becomes intentional too. Start with the simple things. Organize your desk. Open a window. Add light, space and air. Remove what doesn't serve your purpose. Every item in your space should either support your goals or bring you peace. If it does neither, it's noise. The act of organizing your environment isn't about aesthetics. It's about alignment. It's telling your subconscious, I respect this space and I respect what happens here. When you treat your space with purpose, it begins to return that purpose to you. The social environment. Your environment isn't only physical, it's also social. The people around you shape your energy, beliefs and mindset more than you realize. You become like the people you spend the most time with. Their language becomes your language. Their standards become your standards. Their habits become your habits. Spend time with people who complain, and soon you'll find yourself complaining too. Spend time with people who dream big, and you'll start thinking in possibilities. This isn't judgment, it's awareness. Energy is transferable. You can't control everyone who enters your life, but you can choose who stays. You can create an environment that lifts you, not limits you. Ask yourself, who brings peace into my life? Who fuels my growth? Who drains my energy? Your answers will tell you who belongs in your circle, and who belongs in your distance. The digital environment. In today's world, one of the most influential environments is digital. Every scroll, every click, every notification feeds your mind information, and not all of it is healthy. If your digital world is filled with negativity, comparison, and distraction, it begins to shape your self-image. You start feeling anxious without knowing why, drained without knowing how. Your phone, your feed, your online spaces, these are mental environments too. Curate them. Follow people who inspire, not discourage. Read content that builds, not breaks. Limit what drains your focus. You become what you consume, both in food and in information. Protect your digital space the same way you protect your physical one. The energy of environment. Everything in your environment carries energy, color, sound, light, and even silence. That energy interacts with your subconscious constantly. Bright spaces awaken creativity. Dim, cluttered spaces promote fatigue. Soft music calms the mind. Harsh noise breeds restlessness. Be intentional about the energy you allow in. Play music that uplifts your mood. Let sunlight touch your room. Keep objects that inspire you. A quote, a picture, a reminder of your goals. When your environment supports your vision, progress feels natural. You no longer fight against your surroundings. You move with them. The connection between environment and habit. Habits and environments are partners. Your habits are easier to maintain when your environment supports them. If you want to eat healthier, make healthy food visible. If you want to read more, place a book where you can see it. If you want to meditate, create a space that invites stillness. Small environmental cues trigger automatic behavior. When you design your space for success, you reduce the need for willpower. Your environment begins to work for you, not against you. The story of David. David struggled with focus while studying for an important exam. He blamed his short attention span, until he looked around his study room. The TV was on. His phone was beside him. His desk was cluttered. So he decided to experiment. He cleared the desk, left only his notes and a lamp, turned off notifications, and played soft instrumental music. The difference was instant. His concentration doubled, his anxiety dropped, and his study sessions became twice as effective. He didn't change his brain. He changed his environment, and that changed his performance. Your surroundings are not neutral. They are either pulling you forward or holding you back. Designing your space for growth. Here's how you can consciously create an environment that supports your best self. 1. Declutter regularly. Remove what no longer serves your goals. A clear space breeds a clear mind. 2. Surround yourself with reminders of your vision. Quotes, photos, goals, or affirmations. Anything that keeps your focus alive. 3. Choose colors and lighting intentionally. Warm light for calm. Natural light for energy. Soft colors for peace. Vibrant tones for creativity. 4. Limit digital noise. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Set times for social media. Let your attention breathe. 5. Protect your personal energy. Create moments of silence. Close your eyes. Breathe and reset. Your environment begins within. The inner environment. Even the most peaceful room can't calm a chaotic mind. Your inner environment matters just as much as the outer one. Stillness, gratitude and self-awareness are how you maintain that inner order. They're your mental furniture, what you sit on when the world gets loud. If your inner space is clean, no outer storm can shake your peace. If your inner space is cluttered, even paradise feels uncomfortable. Your outer world reflects your inner one, but your inner one always leads. Closing reflection. Your environment is your unspoken teacher. It mirrors your values, your mindset, and your level of awareness. When you walk into your home, your workspace, or your social circle, ask yourself, does this environment represent who I want to become? If not, change it. Not all at once, but one space, one habit, one choice at a time. Because when you shape your surroundings with purpose, you send a message to your mind. I am serious about growth. I am designing my life. The mind reflects the environment, and the environment reflects the mind. Together they form the ecosystem of your destiny. So build both with intention. Make your world a mirror worth looking into. Chapter 14. Gratitude and Growth. Gratitude is the language of growth. It transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary lessons. It turns what you have into enough, and who you are into more. Growth isn't only about adding. It's also about appreciating. You don't become more by chasing endlessly. You become more by recognizing what's already within your reach. Gratitude grounds you. It connects you to the present, balances your ambition, and reminds you that success without appreciation is only half a victory. Many people chase achievement, but few practice appreciation. They reach one goal only to feel empty until the next. But gratitude, real, daily gratitude, breaks that cycle. It teaches the mind to see abundance instead of lack, lessons instead of losses, and progress instead of perfection. Gratitude doesn't stop growth. It accelerates it. Because when you're grateful, you attract more reasons to be grateful for. The power of perspective. Gratitude begins with perspective, a shift in how you see your life. Two people can live the same day and experience completely different worlds. One focuses on what's missing, the other notices what's working. The same reality, two different perspectives, and two entirely different levels of peace. Gratitude doesn't deny pain or struggle. It simply expands your view. It allows you to see beyond what's wrong and recognize what's right. When you start your day by saying, "Thank you," your mind opens to opportunities. When you start by saying, "I wish," your mind closes to them. The lens of gratitude sharpens your vision. It helps you see that even in difficulty, there's a hidden seed of growth waiting to be found. The story of the storm. There was once a farmer whose fields were destroyed by a powerful storm. His crops, his entire year's work, were gone overnight. His neighbors pitied him, saying, "You've lost everything. But the farmer replied calmly, "Maybe not." A few days later, as he walked his ruined fields, he noticed something unexpected. The storm had turned the soil, uncovering minerals deep in the earth. The following season, his harvest was the strongest he'd ever seen. When asked how he stayed calm through the loss, he said, "I've learned that storms take, but they also give. You just have to look closely." That's gratitude in its purest form. Not blind optimism but wise perspective. It's seeing the gift inside the challenge. Gratitude and the mind. Gratitude doesn't just feel good. It changes the way your brain works. When you consciously focus on appreciation, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, the chemicals of joy and calm. This strengthens the neural pathways of positivity, making it easier to find good in the future. Over time, gratitude becomes your default state, not because life gets easier, but because your perception becomes stronger. Your mind begins to interpret life differently. Obstacles become lessons, setbacks become setups, even pain becomes purposeful. That's the secret. Gratitude doesn't remove struggle, it redefines it. The connection between gratitude and growth. Gratitude is not passive, it's powerful. It's the fuel that sustains growth when results are slow. It keeps your heart full while your hands are still building. When you're grateful, you stop rushing the process. You start trusting it. You begin to see that growth isn't only found in achievement, but in the becoming. Growth without gratitude leads to exhaustion. Gratitude without growth leads to complacency. But together, they create balance. Gratitude says, "I appreciate how far I've come." Growth says, "And I'm ready for what's next." One roots you in peace, the other pulls you toward purpose. Together they form the rhythm of a fulfilled life. The story of James. James was a young entrepreneur chasing success. Every time he reached a milestone, he barely celebrated before setting the next one. He told himself that constant striving was the key to greatness. But over time, he began to feel hollow. One night, exhausted and restless, he wrote down everything he was still missing: more clients, more money, more recognition. Then, almost accidentally, he flipped the page and wrote, "What have I already built?" The list was longer than he expected. He had loyal customers, he had improved skills, he had freedom, growth, and lessons learned from every failure. Something shifted. For the first time he realized he wasn't chasing success, he was standing in the middle of it. The next morning, he worked again, but with peace, not pressure. His gratitude turned his grind into joy. That's what gratitude does. It transforms effort from a burden into a blessing. Daily practice of gratitude. Gratitude grows when practiced, not just felt. Here are simple ways to cultivate it every day. 1. Start your morning with thanks. Before reaching for your phone, name 3 things you're grateful for. It could be as simple as your breath, your health, or the sunrise. 2. Reflect at night. Before sleep, review the day. Ask what went right today. This trains your mind to end each day with contentment, not worry. 3. Express it out loud. Tell people you appreciate them. A kind word strengthens connection and multiplies positivity. 4. Write it down. Keep a gratitude journal. When life feels heavy, read your past entries. They'll remind you how much light you've already lived. Practice gratitude in struggle. When challenges arise, ask, "What is this teaching me?" Even difficulty carries wisdom if you look through the right lens. Gratitude in growth seasons. Gratitude isn't only for when things go well. It's most powerful when life feels uncertain. During hard seasons, Gratitude keeps you grounded. It reminds you that even in darkness, there are stars. It shifts your attention from what's missing to what remains. When things fall apart, gratitude whispers, you still have strength. You still have lessons. You still have life. Gratitude is the bridge that carries you from pain to peace, not because it changes what happened, but because it changes how you see it. Growth often feels uncomfortable because it stretches you beyond what's familiar. But gratitude softens that stretch. It turns discomfort into transformation. Gratitude and relationships. Gratitude is also the heart of connection. When you express appreciation, you build trust. When you recognize others, you strengthen bonds. A simple thank you can shift the energy of an entire relationship. It tells the other person, I see you. I value you. In a world where many feel unseen, gratitude is the most human gift you can give. It turns ordinary interactions into moments of meaning. Whether it's a family member, a friend, or a stranger, gratitude transforms relationships from transactional to transformational. Gratitude is spiritual growth. At its deepest level, gratitude is spiritual awareness. It's the recognition that life itself is a gift. Every breath, every moment, every chance to begin again. You don't need everything to be perfect to be grateful. You only need to notice that perfection isn't the goal. Presence is. Gratitude connects you to something greater than yourself, to life, to creation, to meaning. It dissolves pride, ego, and entitlement. It opens space for humility and wonder. When you live with gratitude, you live in alignment with abundance. You stop asking, why don't I have more? And start saying, I have enough, and I'm becoming more. Closing reflection. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it's a way of seeing. It's the habit of recognizing that every moment holds something worth appreciating. When gratitude becomes your default, growth becomes effortless, because you no longer chase life, you cooperate with it. You see that everything, even the challenges, serves your development. You begin to understand that life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. So be thankful for what was, for what is, and for what's yet to come. Gratitude turns time itself into a teacher. The more you give thanks, the more reasons you'll find to be thankful, because gratitude doesn't just reflect growth, it creates it. Chapter 15. Purpose. The mind needs a mission. The human mind is a masterpiece of potential, but without direction, that potential turns restless. Without purpose, even the sharpest mind wanders, searching for meaning in the noise of everyday life. Purpose is not just something you do, it's something you become. It's the compass that gives your thoughts direction, your actions meaning, and your struggles context. Without it, energy scatters. With it, every moment connects to something greater than yourself. The truth is simple but powerful. The mind needs a mission. It must know why it's working, why it's striving, why it's enduring. When the why is strong, the how becomes clear. Purpose gives your days order, your pain meaning, and your success fulfillment. It turns survival into significance and motion into momentum. The power of why. Every great achievement in history began with a why. It wasn't born from comfort. It was born from conviction. The why behind your actions is what sustains you when excitement fades and challenges rise. Without purpose, discipline feels like punishment. With purpose, discipline feels like devotion. When you know why you're doing something, you no longer need constant motivation. You have mission. Purpose transforms effort into expression. You stop asking, Do I have to? And start saying I get to. The restless mind. The mind without purpose drifts. It overthinks, overreacts, and overcomplicates. It creates problems to fill the emptiness of directionless energy. That's why so many people feel anxious even when nothing's wrong. They aren't broken. They're misdirected. The mind is built to pursue, to create, to overcome. When it has no target, it turns its power inward, analyzing, comparing, doubting and worrying. Purpose reverses that current. It channels energy outward, into creation, contribution and growth. When you give your mind a mission, it stops fighting itself and starts fighting for something. And that shift changes everything. The story of Daniel and the mountain. Daniel was a skilled climber who loved challenge. But one year, after completing every local summit, he began to feel empty. He had achieved all his goals, yet the excitement was gone. One day, a mentor asked him, "Why do you climb?" Daniel paused. "Because I love it," he said. "Then who are you helping by climbing?" the mentor asked. The question stayed with him. Months later, Daniel began leading groups of young climbers, teaching them discipline, patience and teamwork through the mountain. He realized something profound. The joy wasn't just in the climb, it was in the meaning behind it. Purpose doesn't always change what you do. Sometimes it just changes why you do it. Purpose and fulfillment. Achievement without purpose feels empty. You can win every trophy and still feel lost. You can earn success but miss satisfaction. Purpose gives success its soul. It's what turns accomplishment into contribution and ambition into alignment. You were never meant to live just for survival, but for significance. And that significance comes from knowing that your work, your growth, your life, all serve something bigger than comfort. Purpose doesn't always look grand. It doesn't require fame, fortune, or applause. It can be as simple as raising a child with love, building something that lasts, or making the world just a little better than you found it. Greatness is not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet devotion to a meaningful cause. The direction of purpose. Purpose gives structure to chaos. It acts as a map for your decisions and a filter for your focus. When you know your mission, you stop chasing everything, because not everything deserves your attention. Purpose helps you say no without guilt. It keeps you aligned when distractions appear disguised as opportunities. Purpose doesn't just guide you where to go, it helps you recognize where not to go. Without purpose, every road looks tempting. With purpose, only one path feels right. The inner voice of calling. Everyone has an inner voice. A quiet pull toward something that feels meaningful. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It often appears as curiosity, passion, or an ache that says, "There's more." That voice is your calling. It's not found in noise or comparison. It's discovered in silence. When you listen to what excites you, what challenges you, and what feels important, even when it's hard, your purpose is not chosen. It's uncovered. It's revealed when you follow what brings both joy and responsibility. Ask yourself, what do I love enough to suffer for? The answer often points to your purpose. Because purpose isn't only what makes you happy, it's what makes your struggles meaningful. The connection between purpose and growth. Growth without purpose is random. Purpose gives growth direction. When you know your mission, every experience, even failure, becomes useful. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me for my mission?" That shift turns pain into preparation. It transforms obstacles into opportunities. Purpose doesn't make life easier. It makes it worthwhile. The story of Maya. Maya worked a stable job, but felt deeply unfulfilled. Every morning, she woke up tired. Even after sleeping well, she wasn't unhappy, just disconnected. One day, she volunteered at a community center, helping children learn art. After that first day, she felt something she hadn't felt in years, life flowing through her again. It wasn't about money or recognition, it was about meaning. That experience showed her that purpose doesn't always require quitting your job or changing everything. Sometimes, it's simply adding something that aligns with your soul. She began dedicating her weekends to teaching, and soon, her weekdays started to feel lighter too, because purpose in one part of life spills into every part of life. Aligning purpose with daily action. Purpose becomes powerful only when it's practiced. A clear mission must translate into consistent motion. Here's how to keep your purpose alive. Daily 1. Clarify your why. Write down what truly drives you. Not what sounds impressive, but what feels true. When decisions get hard, return to this too. Connect every task to meaning. Even small actions can serve a bigger mission. Ask, how does this move me closer to my purpose? 3. Surround yourself with purpose-driven people. Energy is contagious. When you're around those who live with mission, you naturally rise to their level. 4. Review your direction often. Purpose isn't static. It evolves as you grow. Take time each season to ask, does this still feel aligned? 5. Serve beyond yourself. Purpose expands when it contributes. When your goals benefit others, fulfillment multiplies. Purpose and peace. There's a kind of peace that only comes from purpose. It's not the peace of having nothing to do. It's the peace of knowing what must be done. Purpose doesn't remove challenges. It gives them meaning. It doesn't eliminate fear. It gives courage context. It doesn't erase pain. It transforms it into growth. When you wake each day with mission in your heart, life feels less like survival and more like service. And in service, the mind finds order, direction and fulfillment. Closing reflection. Purpose is the mind's anchor in the storm. It's the compass that turns chaos into clarity and motion into meaning. When you find your purpose, even a small one, you stop drifting. You begin to live intentionally, not accidentally. Your purpose might not appear in a flash of revelation. It may unfold slowly, through curiosity, action, reflection and alignment. But once you find it, everything changes, because the mind was never meant to wander endlessly. It was meant to work towards something that matters. So ask yourself, what mission makes me come alive? Then pursue it with focus, gratitude and heart, because once the mind has a mission, the soul has peace and life has direction. Chapter 16. Mastery. Living above the mind. Mastery is not about controlling everything. It's about rising above the noise, the fear, and the endless chatter of the mind. It's the point where thought becomes servant, not master, where emotion becomes guidance, not chaos, and where awareness leads the way. To master the mind is not to silence it, but to understand it so deeply that you are no longer ruled by it. You begin to live from a higher place, the seat of awareness, observing thoughts without being carried away by them. This is what it means to live above the mind, not in arrogance, but in alignment, not detached from life, but deeply connected to it, free from unnecessary suffering, yet fully engaged in every moment. Mastery is calm power. It is strength with stillness, direction with peace, and clarity in motion. And it begins when you stop trying to fight your mind and start learning to understand it. The nature of the mind. The mind is a magnificent tool, but a dangerous master. Left unchecked, it runs endlessly, replaying the past, imagining the future, creating problems that don't exist. It judges, compares, and predicts. That's its nature. To think. The problem begins when we forget that we are not the mind. We are the awareness behind it. You can't stop your mind from producing thoughts any more than you can stop your heart from beating. But you can learn to observe without reacting. That's the first step toward mastery. You don't need to suppress thoughts. You need to see them, and once you see them clearly, they lose their power to control you. Living above reaction. The average person lives in reaction. Something happens, and the mind immediately labels it good, bad, right, wrong. Then emotion follows, and action follows emotion. This cycle repeats endlessly. Living above the mind means breaking that pattern. It means responding instead of reacting. When anger rises, you notice it. You pause. You don't suppress it. You study it. You ask, what's behind this? In that pause lies power. The power to choose, to act consciously, instead of impulsively. This is what separates the reactive from the wise. Not knowledge, but awareness. Not speed, but stillness. The higher you rise in awareness, the less control the mind has over you, and the more control you gain over your life. The story of the archer. There was once a master archer, who was asked how he always hit his target. He smiled and said, "Before I release the arrow, I still my mind. If my mind is restless, the arrow wavers. If my mind is clear, the target finds itself." The secret of his accuracy wasn't his skill, it was his stillness. He didn't shoot from the mind. He shot through it. He acted with the mind, not under it. That is mastery in motion. Calm, deliberate, and aware. Because when the mind is quiet, even for a moment, action becomes effortless. Awareness. The true seat of power. Mastery begins with awareness. The quiet observer behind all thought and emotion. Right now as you listen, thoughts are rising and fading. Some are about the past, some about what's next. But if you step back and watch them, who is watching? That watcher is you, the consciousness beyond the chatter. It's silent, calm, and unshaken. The more you identify with that awareness, the freer you become. Pain may come, but it doesn't define you. Fear may whisper, but it doesn't control you. Thoughts pass, but you remain. You can't control every wave of the mind, but you can learn to surf them with balance. That's awareness in action. The layers of mastery. There are 3 levels to living above the mind: control, command, and creation. 1. Control cut. At first, mastery begins with noticing when your mind is leading you astray. You learn to pause before reacting, to breathe before deciding, to step back before speaking. 2. Command. Next, you develop command, the ability to direct your mind intentionally. You train your thoughts through focus, gratitude, and visualization. You begin using the mind as a tool, not as a cage. 3. Creation. Finally, you reach creation, where your thoughts align with purpose, emotion aligns with vision, and action aligns with truth. At this stage, life becomes flow. You no longer fight against your mind, you partner with it. This is not a one-time achievement. It's a lifelong practice. Mastery is not an event. It's a state of being refined every day. The trap of control. Many people misunderstand mastery. They think it means forcing the mind to obey, suppressing emotion, or pretending to be unaffected. That's not mastery. That's resistance. True mastery is gentle awareness, not harsh control. It's the difference between taming a wild horse with kindness or beating it into submission. One builds trust, the other breeds fear. The mind resists domination, but responds beautifully to understanding. When you observe your mind with compassion, it begins to relax, and when it relaxes, it listens. You can't master what you hate. You can only master what you understand. The mind as a servant. Once you begin living above the mind, thought becomes a tool again. You can summon focus when needed, quiet it when finished, and redirect it when wandering. The mind becomes like a loyal assistant, powerful but guided. You stop overthinking because you no longer confuse thinking with being. You stop chasing endless desires because you no longer mistake stimulation for satisfaction. The mind becomes your ally, efficient, sharp and quiet when not in use. And in that partnership, peace and productivity coexist. The story of the river. A monk once asked his teacher, "Master, how do I control my mind?" The teacher replied, "You don't control a river, you learn to flow with it." The monk frowned. "Then how do I stop it from overflowing?" "By deepening the banks," said the teacher. "Not by damming the water, but by giving it direction." The river is your mind. The banks are awareness and purpose. When those are strong, your mind can flow powerfully, without destroying what's around it. You don't stop your mind from thinking. You simply give it a path that leads somewhere meaningful. Tools for mental mastery. Here are practical ways to live above your mind each day. 1. Observe without judgment. When a thought arises, label it gently, thinking, worrying, planning. Then return to awareness. 2. Practice mindfulness. Be fully present in whatever you're doing, eating, walking, breathing. This anchors your awareness in the now. 3. Create moments of stillness. Each day, sit quietly for a few minutes without distraction. Listen to your breath, your heartbeat, your awareness itself. 4. Speak to your mind. Don't from it. When you feel overwhelmed, calmly tell yourself, "I see you, let's slow down." You are the voice behind the voice. 5. Align thought with truth. Ask, is this thought useful? Is it kind? Is it real? If not, let it pass. Like a cloud drifting across the sky. These small practices build the muscle of mastery. You'll notice more peace, more focus, and a growing distance between you and your reactions. The paradox of mastery. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop trying to control your mind, you begin to master it. Because mastery is not force, it's freedom. When you no longer believe every thought or react to every feeling, you discover an inner stillness that cannot be disturbed. You can think deeply without drowning in thought. You can feel fully without being consumed by emotion. That is true mastery, to use the mind, not be used by it. Living above. To live above the mind doesn't mean abandoning the world. It means engaging with it from a higher state. You work, love, create and serve, but from calm, not chaos. You still feel, but you are not controlled by feeling. You still think, but you are not trapped by thought. The storms still come, but you stand above them, aware, steady, unshaken. You become the mountain, not the mist that surrounds it. This is the essence of inner freedom. When you master your mind, you master your experience of life. Closing reflection. Living above the mind is not escaping life. It's finally living it. It's waking up from the noise of constant thought, and realizing that peace was never something to find. It was something to return to. Your mind is a powerful servant, but it was never meant to be your ruler. When you lead with awareness, The mind follows with harmony. When you observe instead of react, life slows down, not because time changes, but because you do. So rise above your thoughts. Be the watcher, not the whirlwind, and let your awareness become the quiet sky, beneath which all storms pass. Because mastery isn't about winning over the mind, it's about remembering that you were always above it. Conclusion. The ongoing journey. Every journey has a beginning, a path, and a destination, but the journey of mastering your mind, it never truly ends, because the mind itself is alive. It grows, evolves, and adapts with every experience, and so must you. Mastering your mind isn't about reaching perfection. It's about living with awareness. It's about returning, again and again, to the place within you that observes, learns, and grows. It's not a race to a finish line. It's a rhythm of reflection, refinement, and renewal. The mind is both your greatest ally and your greatest challenge. It can build empires or destroy peace. It can create beauty or chaos. But when you learn to work with it instead of against it, it becomes your most loyal companion on the path to fulfillment. The journey so far. Think of how far you've come. You've learned that awareness is the first step. The ability to see your thoughts without being trapped by them. You've explored the power of emotion, how it can become energy for growth instead of fuel for fear. You've understood discipline, focus, and the quiet strength that comes from consistency. You've faced fear, resistance, and doubt, and learned to turn them into teachers, not enemies. You've discovered stillness, the quiet space where peace begins. You've recognized the influence of your environment, and how shaping it shapes you. You've embraced gratitude, the heart of fulfillment. You've uncovered purpose, the compass of the mind, and you've reached mastery, the realization that you are not your mind, but the awareness behind it. Every chapter has been a step, not toward control, but toward understanding, not toward power over life, but peace within it. The real work. Now comes the most important part, living it. Wisdom means little without application. Awareness means nothing without practice. You don't need to do everything perfectly. You only need to do it consistently. Each day, take one step toward clarity. One choice that aligns with peace. One thought that strengthens gratitude. One action that serves your purpose. Over time, these small steps compound into transformation. That's the beauty of inner work. It's invisible at first, but undeniable later. Growth doesn't happen in a single moment of inspiration. It happens quietly, in the daily decisions that shape your mind and your direction. So return to these principles often. Revisit awareness when confusion rises. Call on discipline when motivation fades. Seek stillness when life gets loud. And always remember, you are not here to conquer your mind. You are here to guide it. The seasons of mastery. Like nature, the mind moves in seasons. There will be seasons of growth, where everything flows, and seasons of challenge, where everything feels stuck. Both are necessary. The easy seasons build momentum. The hard ones build depth. When resistance returns, don't see it as failure. See it as a reminder that the work continues. When fear whispers again, remember that it's not the end. It's an invitation to rise higher. The goal was never to silence the mind forever. It was to understand its rhythm, to live in harmony with it. Some days you'll feel fully in control. Other days you'll fall back into old habits. That's okay. Progress is not linear. It's a spiral. Each time you return wiser. Living the philosophy. To master your mind is to master your experience of life. Because everything you encounter, success, failure, love, loss, begins in the way you think about it. When your mind is calm, challenges become manageable. When your mind is clear, decisions become easier. When your mind is grateful, life becomes beautiful. You cannot control every circumstance, but you can always control your perspective. And that perspective determines how you live, love, and lead. So live consciously, speak thoughtfully, work intentionally, and rest deeply. That's what it means to live above the mind, not detached from life, but fully awake within it. The story of the traveler. There's an old story about a traveler who searched his entire life for wisdom. He climbed mountains, crossed deserts, and spoke to countless teachers. After decades of searching, he found himself back at his starting point, tired but wiser. There, sitting under the same tree where he had begun, he suddenly understood. Wisdom wasn't something to find, it was something to remember. It had been with him all along, waiting for his awareness to mature enough to see it. That's the story of this journey too. You haven't discovered something new. You've remembered what was always within you. Awareness, strength, clarity, and peace. The mind didn't need to be defeated. It needed to be understood. The infinite path. The path of mental mastery is infinite. Each lesson deepens another. Each insight reveals a new layer of awareness. There will always be more to learn. Not because you're incomplete, but because you're alive. Life itself is the teacher, and the mind is the classroom. The more you stay aware, the more the lessons become blessings. So walk this path gently but deliberately. Let every mistake humble you. Let every victory ground you. Let every moment, good or bad, expand your understanding of yourself. Because mastery isn't about reaching an end. It's about walking consciously every step of the way. Closing reflection. You began this journey to master your mind before it mastered you. But now you understand the truth. Mastery was never about domination. It was about harmony. It's about learning to live in partnership with your thoughts, to listen but not obey, to feel but not drown, to think but not lose yourself in thinking. Your mind will always speak, but you decide how to listen. And when you listen with awareness, you live with wisdom. So take this understanding into the world. Use it to bring peace to your work, love to your relationships, and clarity to your purpose. And remember, the journey doesn't end here. It deepens, because every new day is another chance to practice presence, to think consciously, to live intentionally, to grow continually. Master your mind, yes, but more than that, live above it. Because once you rise above the noise, you begin to hear life whispering what it was saying all along. That peace, power, and purpose were never somewhere else. They were always within you.